You've been driving for a while and you feel like you've hit a plateau and you're just not improving anymore. You've upgraded your hardware, but you're still not able to be as fast as you would like. Well, guess what? I did that too, okay? I'm as guilty as you are. And that's exactly why Racine and myself created what we call the advanced way to learn. By using the techniques that we're about to show you, we were able to win national championships, and we're now coaching real-life drivers and sim racers all across the globe. So let me tell you why you absolutely need this to improve your racing skills. On this platform, you'll go through 5 learning steps. The first one is going to be to watch video lessons so you can take in all that theory. The second step will be to answer quizzes. We've created some questions to test your knowledge. Next, you'll have to partake in challenges. Here, you'll have to prove to yourself that you can apply what you've learned. You'll go on track and you'll try to beat the instructor's lap times for sector times. Following the challenge, you'll be able to send your onboard replay so instructors and other community members can help you improve. And lastly, you can get involved in the community to meet some new teammates and learn from others. This platform is a back and forth discussion between us, the instructor, and you, the students. If you're serious about becoming the best driver out there, this is the advanced way to learn.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Good afternoon, everybody, from Watkins, Glen, as we get ready for our final 3 rounds in the GT3 Fixed and Sprint Series in the 2024 Season 4 season of the Precision Racing League. After a week away, we've got our final stretch home. 3 rounds back-to-back at Watkins, Glen, Fuji and Sebring to decide our 2 champions in both of our series, starting, of course, with the GT3 Fixed Series here from Watkins, Glen. Myself, Ian O'Leary, and Darren Thacker with you here this evening for both races. races. Good to be back down after a week off. We've got a final stretch to the flag now. It really feels like championship time is upon us in this series. The last 3 races being separated from the rest just seems to add a bit of a heightened importance in the minds of everybody going forward into these last races.
Yeah, it's meant that the drivers have an extra week to think about how they're going to approach this race into the final 2 rounds. Might give us a little bit more of a closer feel. Drivers had a little bit longer to practice for this particular circuit, and I'm really looking forward to see who can really claim that advantage, because when you've got only 2 rounds to go, particularly with the point system we have in PRL, you have to be getting close now or it's going to feel a little bit too far away.
Absolutely, we'll see those standings in a moment. There are the dates. Join us again next week, and indeed the week after. We'll be it's still going in the GT3 series a bit after everybody else. 11 points is the gap between William Fenton and Jeff Cofford now, after losing a few more points. Jeff in the last round, although Israel Osborne did win last week at Montreal. That closed the gap to 12 points. Tyler Graff is still there or thereabouts, 23 behind. I think he's the last one with a realistic chance, though. Eric Torihag is in 5th place, ahead of Matt Scherf, with Sully Sad, Brett Furman, Andrew Trickett and Waldo Warden rounding out the top 10. In the AM series, it is Ryan Chandler leading by 4 points, and he's got 5 points only over Thomas Repp as well. Colin McKenzie and Joel Pagaro are all within 16. Buck Hamilton and Carson Quint are tied at 22 behind, with Pete Measure, Robert Jeffries and David Morse rounding out the rest of the AM standings. In the Fixed Series team standings, it's Lunatic Jelly who are leading the way by just 10 points ahead of SGE and then Jeff's Broken Wing Racing. Then the others a little bit too far back. Bump and Run and B&O Cotton Mania are 4 points separated, with the Lunatic Peanut Butter knocking on the door of a top 5. PRL Simsport is 7th, then a Soulbrick Parabola Racing, with E3 Sim Racing and SGE Pioneer rounding out the top 10 teams. Before we go any further, let's thank the sponsors that make these broadcasts possible, as always, starting with Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision 5 coupon code. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and get a 5% discount using the Precision 5 coupon code. Bookkicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Moradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit moradness.com. Mr. Hedge iRacing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest or possibly worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution. A great addition to any sim room. And finally, Advanced Motorsports. Get ready to learn to be fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on their socials to become a better driver. A big thanks to all of those sponsors who make these broadcasts possible here this evening. It is great to be along with you again after a week away here at Watkins Glen. Threat of rain to come later, by the way, so do stay with us for the Sprint Series a little bit later on, because we may well see precipitation for the second round in a row, but none so much here. Instead, it's a dry qualifying session, as it will be a dry race as well. Early thing to note here is that I believe, as I'm looking through at the moment, oh no, sorry, I'm mistaken in thinking that. Never mind, I'll park that thought just for the moment. A big gap at the front of the field, nearly 4/10 of a second. Israel Osborne won 2 weeks ago, probably hoping that we would have been racing last week as well, but we weren't. He's still, though, carrying that form over from his win, of course, 2 weeks ago, his second of the season, second in a row. He's in red hot form, right at the very correct time, if you like. They're currently on top in this qualifying session.
And by a decent margin as well, nearly 4/10 back to William Fenton, who will not be enjoying seeing that gap in front of him. Nice to see another couple of drivers, the likes of Jay Steffi, getting themselves near the top of the time sheets, even though Steffi sitting down in P13 in the championship coming into this race. Good to see a couple more names. Jeff Howfold as well will be needing to maybe set a better lap time here. He can't afford to be down behind William Fenton as he comes in to this one, of course, 11 points back. So a lot of work for him to be doing. Also good to see the likes of Luke Davis getting it, mixing it up with some of the pro drivers in the AM category.
Yeah, absolutely. He's currently 7th. Of course, the AM category is so interesting because there's not a set amount of points for the race winner, and you can actually gain and lose points a lot quicker in the AM standings than you can in the pros, which makes it more interesting in my opinion. I mean, I'm not sure exactly how far we're willing to go down the order as far as those who are still involved in the championship, but you know, David Morse is 10th in the standings. He's only 34 points behind. The biggest score so far for the current championship leader, Ryan Chandler, is 37. The best score at the moment for anybody in the field is 45. The race winner, Thomas Rep, from one round ago, finishing up in 6th place at the Montreal circuit. So in AM, really anything can happen with the top 10 all covered by what is a feasible race-winning point score for any of these drivers.
I think the point system kind of helps that out, and just to keep it really, really close. And it's going to be interesting to see who can try and gain that little bit of a march. Of course, Ryan Chandler will be hoping to get there, but with Luke Davis being where he is, it's not going to be the most comfortable of positions for him to be in for the time being. Lots of times coming in, and a lot of them in the 44 4s and 5s. You can see how tight that gaggle of cars is. Realistically, from Jeff Calfold in 3rd overall, all the way down to David, or even Pete Mesier at the bottom of the consistent tower there, there's all of 2.5 tenths, you know, a quarter of a second, splitting so many drivers, and it's going to be really important, clearly, to get the run off of the line, because overtake can be difficult to come by here at Watkins Glen, and in a very tight field, pace advantage isn't clearly going to be there.
Glad to say that we'll be live for one more full week of PRL racing, by the way, next week, so make sure you join us for those, starting on Sunday night from 9 PM Eastern Time with the Cup Series finale. Top 3 are covered by 6 points there. Last night, Darry, you were there commentating on LMP3 and GT4. The biggest championship margin there is just 5 points as well, going into their finale. Now, it does feel a little bit different in GT3, doesn't it? Because we're 2 weeks away from the end, at the end of tonight, rather than just the 1 week. But, I mean, we've got some remarkably close championships so far in the PRL this season. This championship is no exception. 11 points, the biggest margin between the two classes here tonight. Or between the 4 classes, I should say, tonight. 11 points, the biggest margin. So, you know, we've got some great championship finales set up for next week already. And maybe this race can provide us with another couple that are a little bit closer than they are right now. Especially in the pro standings, actually. If William Fenton can take a good win today, or indeed a good score, then he might put himself slightly out of reach in the pro championship with 11 points coming in here.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting towards the holiday period, particularly in the US with Thanksgiving coming up in only a couple of weeks. But the fragments that we've been able to get up here in the commentary box is the amount of close championships in all of the different events across the week in the PRL. And it's so good to see how many championships are still up for grabs. And, you know, we've seen it in seasons past, how drivers can pull out quite a big advantage in the lead of a championship. You get quite a big bunch for 2nd place. But this season, we are really seeing the titles go down to the wire, and it is no exception here. As you said, Sully Saad will be looking for another lap time. Not too many drivers left on laps now, with only 2 minutes on the clock, and we're kind of getting set into where we're going to see our title contenders starting the race. Interesting that we have got pretty much all 3 of the big names in the pro category going to be starting right near the sharp end. Of course, Svensson, Caffold and Osborne, they make up 3 of the top 5.
Yeah, Andrew Trickett and Park Hilliard are there as well. Trickett is 9th in the standings. Park Hilliard down in 16th, but he's missed 2 rounds and yet to score a top 5. So if he can stay there and finish there, it would be a great result indeed. Can William Fenton improve, though? That'll be the big story here. And he is going quite quickly as far as my timing screen is showing me as things stand. As Conor McKenzie, meanwhile, doing the same. He moves up to 4th place and might be taking the amp pole here. But it's William Fenton we're running on board with. Can he at least get into the 143s here? That would get him in the ballpark of Israel Osborne. Is the only driver to go below a 1 minute 44 here so far into the final couple of corners. Fenton in the dirty air, you could say, of the McLaren just up ahead through that final sector, but he's not been just bought by it, I don't think, too much. Over the line he goes. He can't even improve on his own time, and I'm afraid that is going to mean he should finish in 2nd place. I don't think Andrew Trickett is improving very much either. It looks like Israel Osborne has got pole position here.
And what an important pole position as well, by the margin that he's taken it by, well, over 1/3 of a second. When 1/3 of the second back from there goes right down to midfield as well. Trickett will come to the line. In the end, he gets close, but not quite close enough. A 44.589 would only be good enough to match Jared Keen's time in P12. So Andrew Trickett will stay in P3. But a big shout out to Colin McKenzie, getting himself up into P4 for the time being in the AM class. That's a huge result.
It is. And the bigger picture thing is about how many positions he is ahead of Luke Davis, who is 6 behind him. Conor McKenzie comes into the day 11 points off Ryan Chandler in the AM Championship lead. Regan Chandler is down in 25th. Can't find Ryan just for the moment. He's down in 31st. That's a bit of a disaster for the championship leader, I've got to be honest. Luke Davis is doing okay though, but he's too far behind Conor McKenzie at the moment. This is what I mean earlier about how it can change so quickly in AM. McKenzie, if the qualifying results turn into the race results, which they won't of course, but if they did, McKenzie would take 3 positions. Luke Davis would stay second, and the gap would get a little bit closer. It could change very quickly indeed here tonight.
It's also worth noting out about Colin McKenzie that he has picked up 10 penalty points over the course of the season. He comes into this race 11 points back, so the amount of points earned in the races, he's only 1 point down on Ryan Chandler, so he's been right there duking it out with Chandler in terms of getting those positions week in, week out. He's dropping 17 points, which is exactly the same amount of points that Ryan Chandler is dropping. So they really have had incredibly similar seasons, with the exception of McKenzie's 10 drop points. Getting up into P4 is huge for him. The amount of points he could gain in this scenario could really shoot him up into the lead of the championship from 11 points back.
Certainly could. Good evening, by the way, to Brendan Kennedy, who's jumping in. Chatting along with us as always. Good afternoon and evening to wherever you are in the world watching us along here on RaceSpotTV for the GT3 Series here tonight. By the way, the thing that makes it even more interesting in my mind and easiest for us to work out as well, more importantly, is the fact that the best drop round of anybody inside the top 8 is 36th. And that is going to be very difficult to finish in here today. There's only 35 of them on the circuit, so effectively nobody can take this round as their drop round, even if they have a disaster of a day. That puts the pressure on everybody, surely.
Yeah, knowing that the final round, you're not going to be able to drop those either. It basically means that, it depends on the turn-up numbers next week. Apart from that, you're going to the end of the season. Every point you earn is going to be going onto your tally. So the pressure really on, and especially when you have this condensed, we were talking at the top of the show, this condensed 3 weeks at the end of the season, once we've just had a break week, really means that the pressure is on, because you're going in thinking, I've got 3 rounds. If it doesn't go well tonight, you've got a mountain to climb and only 2 weeks to do it.
Absolutely. The checkered flag is waving, by the way, and we are just second away from the end of qualifying. It looks like Israel Osborne has taken pole then in GT3 Pro, and in GT3 AM, of course, it is Colin McKenzie who has taken the pole position there. I believe we'll have a look at their pole laps during the warm-up session here, or at least the pole lap, the overall pole lap, as well as the grid, of course, before we get going here tonight for the race. 35 minutes, as always. No chance of rain, as is the case in all of the GT3 Fixed Series races this season. And that is contrary to the GT3 Sprint Series. We're going to see a little bit later on. That does have an 82% chance of rain. On board then with the driver Osborne in these overcast conditions, we'll have a look at what makes a pole lap around this circuit. A circuit that is wonderfully flowing, I've got to say, but I don't feel suits GT3s properly down to the ground. Their lack of aerodynamic downforce, I think, does show round here on occasion. Israel Osborne, though, able to tame this Ferrari better than anybody else. The only driver to get into the 143s, and riding on board with the only lap indeed to achieve that now.
And coming up through the S's towards this back straight, it's a circuit where when you do have a lot of downforce, you can create overtaking moves down here towards the chicane. But in these GT3s, maybe a little bit more difficult to come by. We'll see as Ryan Osborne flicking it through the right, then the left, getting it back to the left again to avoid going too far off the track. And then you've just got to keep it running through the carousel. Keep it as tight as you can. You can see washing out on the exit. But it's a lap which demands so much concentration because it's on the limit so much of the time. Circuits that are more stop-start with heavier braking zones more frequently are more easy to judge. I mean, I'm thinking in terms of tracks more like Monza, where you can brake, everyone brakes around the same point. It's more on the turn-in. Here, a lot of the time lost and gained is about the confidence in the car, how much you're willing to push in the middle of the corner, and Osborne clearly willing to push a lot more because this lap's 3/10 quicker than anybody else.
Yeah, quite astonishing, really. And what a rich vein of form he's in. He won the final 2 weeks before we had a break last week, did Osborne, after the win at round number 5 in Interlagos. He said it's been a very long time since he's won. When digging deeper, I found out he'd only won last season, but for him, that was a long time, and he was very glad indeed to get back onto the top step of the podium. Now, he doesn't want to relinquish that top step. Into the final corner he goes. Watch how close they get to the wall of the exit here as well, though not quite as ragged as you might expect to see from a pole lap. That is the only 1:43 of the session. Not much further behind, though. Of course, Colin McKenzie set a great lap in the AMS. I mean, what a fantastic performance from him to get up into 4th place. We see this from time to time with the AMS. I mean, Thomas Rett finished 6th after all 2 weeks ago, which is a very impressive drive indeed. But to have a lap like that in qualifying for Colin McKenzie was pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, really impressive just to see Colin being able to get it right up near the sharp end, not just of his AM class, but with the pros as well, and it's number 15, doing an incredible job. We're going to see pretty much the same lap time, maybe a little less, a little bit of time lost probably through the higher speed parts of the track. You can see him running it out on that exit curb, trying to get as much speed up as he can before the turning through the S's. I would have thought he'd lose a little bit of time on those exit curbs, but clearly not enough to make it worth leaving them and losing a little bit of time, losing those extra hundredths and thousandths by diverting your line ever so slightly. But yeah, this is a track which just demands the pace, demands the confidence. Oh, and bouncing, nearly hitting the wall there on the inside. That was a bit of faith in the car.
Crikey. It made such a sound. I'm surprised he didn't hit it, actually. Oh, my God. There's definitely time. By the way, the thing that's making me giggle a little bit about this is that there's definitely time to be found here for Colin McKenzie. I mean, when we were looking on board with Israel Osborne, I was thinking, well, you know, he can't really find much more out of this car than he currently is, but that's a mistake into the bus stop chicane there, a little bit wide through the inner loop, or the outer loop, I should say. Then a little bit missing the apex there at the toe of the boot as well. You know, he could definitely find some time in this, but anyway, it's enough for 4th place, and he'll be very pleased with that indeed. I wonder whether there is any credit to the fact that they're both in Ferraris that Pro and Am have taken pole position here, or whether there is nothing in that, because after all, the top 3 was filled with 3 different manufacturers, McLaren and Ford also getting up there as well.
Yeah, it's good. It's nice to see the mix, isn't it? When there's options for the drivers, you know, sometimes the drivers are all herd towards one or the other if they have a particular advantage, but clearly drivers going a little bit more with how they feel in the cars. It's nice to see that we have a bit of a mix, and that you do get some discrepancies when you look up and down the field, and it's not just a sea of BMWs or a sea of Mercedes, but it's nice to see the mix.
As you can see, sorry, not for the Porsche, of course, I mean. Israel Osborne and William Fenton are on the front row. Then there is that Porsche of Andrew Trickett. Then the Ferrari of Colin McKenzie on am pole. It is BMW and Ferrari next to Park Hilliard and Jeff Coulthard rounding out row 3. Eric Terry-Haag is indeed in the first Mustang. He's down in 7th, though, with Jay Steffi in 8th place. Tyler Graff and Luke Davis round out the top 10 with Pete Measure 3rd in am, ahead of Felix Feliz, the first of the Corvettes in the field. Jarrett Keane and Sully Saad make up an all Porsche row 7, with David Bush the first of the Audis, ahead of Ross Sortino in 4th in class, ahead of David Morse 5th in the AM class. Nicholas Johnson is 18th, better Dale Pedersen and Matt Sherford round out the top 20. Carl Colbert and Mulder Walden round out row 11, with Alex Wright and Dino Vella on the row behind them. Regan Chandler is ahead of Kevin Berkmeister, Sam Smeltzer and Christopher Ryan's next. Joe Pagero and Carson Quint round out the top 30, with Ryan Chandler, the AM Championship leader, down in 31st. He needs a very big race indeed to get back into the fray. Ryan Luna is 32nd, ahead of Barry Cochrane and Thomas Rep, the winner from 2 weeks ago, down in 34th, the last of the AM qualified, with Sean Mulholland rounding out the 35 car grid. There's some surprises in there for sure, as we're about to embark on a full pace lap here, so we'll have plenty of time to chat about it. I think the back 5 we just saw there were very, very interesting indeed. Ryan Chandler 31st, loads of work to do. Thomas Rep 34th, even more work to do. 2 weeks ago, the winner, of course, was Thomas Rep.
Yeah, it's going to be an intriguing race, to say the least, especially with so much on the line with only a couple of rounds to go. But also, I think, really important to get that start sorted out. Turn 1 really up towards the chicane. It's very open here at Watkins Glen. We see lots of cars run wide off the road. That pinch when all the drivers come back onto the racing line can spawn a little bit of trouble. but let's see how it goes. Up towards the chicane at the end of the straight as well. Difficult to really make moves there. We saw with the qualifying laps how much commitment you need to show through there to really keep the lap going and to keep gaining time rather than losing tenths by going offline. That's going to be a difficult place to make a move, but drivers are going to want to make moves early on. It's just a case of how brave are people willing to go, really.
And a case as well of how difficult it's going to be as well. I always find at Watkins Glen in the IMSA racing here that the traffic actually facilitates a lot of the overtaking and a lot of the interest. Of course, today we don't have any multi-class traffic. We may get some lap traffic late on in the race, but it's only 35 minutes. And so even that's going to be a little bit of a very small bit of a factor in this race. Just wonder whether it could be one of those struggles and whether the qualifying session we've just seen will be very important. And those fans down towards the back could really struggle to work their way through the field at this circuit.
It's just going to be a case of, I think, picking your way through. I mean, it sounds obvious. It sounds like, you know, we're repeating the same old stuff. But at Watkins Glen, it's not a circuit where you can try and force overtakes. You know, at different circuits where you've got heavier braking zones, where you've got maybe a little bit more room to craft an overtake, then yeah, you can really try and work your way through and build your way through the order. Here, it's so difficult to really be able to conscientiously make a decision on when to go for a move. Difficult to necessarily go side by side. It's more a base of the field. Does someone go wide? Do you have a bit of run out of the corner? It's more circumstantial here, so I think drivers are going to have to be aware of that. But those guys with the best racing now will know exactly how to approach something like this.
Well, the opening lap or so of this race is going to be very important indeed. I'm sure you've all seen, everyone watching this, your fair share of crashes over the top of the hill here through turns 2, 3, 4, up the S's. There's nowhere to avoid. If indeed there is one, so hopefully we get away with it. But I'm not sure what it is about this section of corners, to be honest, on the opening lap, the S's up there, because they're hardly the most difficult curves in the world, but for some reason they seem to cause monumental accidents sometimes, so hopefully we get away cleanly this time round.
I think part of that comes to the fact that the barriers do almost appear on the sides of the road, don't they? Coming through the S's before we get to the back straight. Of course, it's very wide through turn 1, and then it's almost like the barriers have tunnel vision for the circuit and really just hug the two sides. If there's any kind of incident, with these GT3s being relatively wide, you know, you can see the track nearly being blocked or being fully blocked, so it's always a bit of a risk through the opening couple of corners, but these drivers are aware of that. They've done enough races here. I think this is the 3rd most used circuit in the PRL in the GT3s, definitely inside the top 5. I think this is the 18th time we visited the circuit, so drivers are going to be well versed in how to start the races. It's just a case of how much do they want to gain positions versus how safe are they thinking they need to go.
That's a little bit dangerous, really, but there you go. We're in the sim after all. Into the final couple of corners then come the leaders. There is the flag being held rather loosely by the flagman. Green flag in hand, and Israel Osborne now is going to be in control of the field. Pace car avoids the wall, and we are indeed underway. Osborne not waiting around and catches William Fenson sleeping. Oh, Fenson's going to be in trouble here with Andrew Trickett down in towards turn number 1. How late is the Porsche going to be on the brakes? He gets down the inside, and the championship leader Fenson pushed immediately out wide here. Could be losing his 2nd place, earns it qualifying immediately. Up the hill they go, through the S's, still side by side, and Fenson keeps it alongside. Here as they go up the hill, Park Hilliard getting close to the wall as well. Can they get through here cleanly? It's quite a spaced out start because Israel Osborne hit the gas so quickly. Here goes Fenson on the outside line. Can he regain 2nd? He's into the corner side by side, and Trickett gets there. Andrew Trickett up to 2nd. William Fenson, championship leader, loses that position and gets down to 3rd.
Yeah, and with Osborne going pretty much as soon as he could, he was not waiting around at all. It meant that the driver behind him, which was Andrew Trickett, got a little bit of a better launch off of the line. He could see the car in front of him moving away, whereas for William Fenson, he had to kind of look to the side of him. More difficult to judge off the start like that. So difficult to see. Drivers still going side by side as they make their way down towards the toe and in towards the boot. But they are running up the hill. That is Tyler Graff, of course, one of our championship contenders, still fighting it out and needs to get away from fights like this. Luke Davis losing the position to Felix Feliz.
Yeah, Davis loses a place. Mackenzie's still in the same place, so that's a net loss for Luke Davis as he's got queuing up behind him Sully Sad, Pete Measure, Jared Keane, Ross Sortino. They're all there, as is the Audi side by side, in fact, between Bush and Sortino on the way up the hill there. Drills the exit of the boot, if you like, down at turn 9. The run up the hill, he looks up the inside there, does Bush, but he's not going to quite get through. Sortino will go round the outside in the gold and red. and make his way up to 15th position into the single file. They'll finally fall. But plenty of side-by-side early on there, which was good to see. A little bit of weaving around as everybody tries to go and get the slipstream on the front straight. Well, it's dramatic, really. But here we go. Mark Hilliard and Kev Carford now going side-by-side. Jeff's gone one position backwards so far. He's outside the top 5, going side-by-side up the hill now again. In the Ferraris on the inside line, should have the place here. As long as he sticks it on the outside line now through turn 3. He's still level with Hilliard now. Who's Jay Steffi going to support? He's got to push one of them, and he can't go through on his own, so he's got to help one. Oh, he looks. In the end, he helps neither, really. Side by side into the corner. Neither want to back out. Hilliard and, Carford side by side through the chicane. We've seen it for the first time this evening, and it's been done successfully. Oh no! It's the outer loop where it gets unstuck. Carford and Hilliard into the wall in dramatic fashion. And the man's second place in the championship, Jeff Carford, is going to be losing points this afternoon as he smashes into the wall at the outer loop.
Really, really bad news for Jeff Calford. His silver lining is that he currently is dropping 48 points, so he's still going to be having a pretty nice payday, but he's got nothing to fall back on in next week, so this is not going well at all for Jeff Calford. Not where he needed to be either, down towards P5, P6. His championship rivals are first and third. He cannot afford to be part of these battles. Steffi now having to fight away with Sully Sad in towards this tricky heel section. Oh, was there a little bit of contact? There was. Sully Sad's around and in an awful place on the racetrack.
Well, I can guess what emotion he's going to be after that. Spinning down at turn number 8. There he goes, getting back going again. Yeah, you're right to mention, by the way, 48 points currently being dropped by Jeff Carford. That was the first time, by the way, 2 weeks ago, that he finished off the podium. He'll certainly be finishing off the podium again after this. He just seemed to make an initial bit of contact with the BMW. Then he was sliding around, then straight into the side of him again, and they both were going straight in the wall. This is what happened to Sad. Very innocuous. That was incredibly small contact to send him around, but that's what happens when these cars are on the edge, and he drops all the way down as well.
Yeah, and he is going to be tumbling down the field. This is what's happened before to our number 8 of Nicholas Johnson. That's a very, very slow spin, and finding the barrier as well. I'm not too sure how many drivers have found the inside barrier there, but Nicholas Johnson made sure that he is the first of our field to do so tonight. All of that battling and all of that incident has meant that there is a monumental gap ahead of Eric Terry-Hag. I say monumental, it's only a couple of seconds, but in a race as tight as this, with margins as fine as this, that is quite a big gap.
It is quite big, yeah. In towards the boot they go again. 5th place for Terry-Hag. Then it's Tyler Graff, Felix Feliz, Luke Davis, Jay Steffi, Pete Measure and Jarek Keane. You can all see in the background David Bush is up to 12th, by the way. He's made great progress, and I guess most people have here in this group because of the crashes that got off ahead, but he is up 3 places so far, ahead of David Morse, then Ross Sortino, then Matt Sheff, who's made the most places so far of anybody, although he is tied with Sean Mulholland, Christopher Rhines and Waldo Warden, so it's a shared prize just for the moment. On board we go there with Jay Steffi. He had to avoid there a little bit, and he lost a couple of places as a result of that, down to 9th here, but that's only sort of undoing the progress he previously made, so he's back to where he started in this race, if you like. It's settling down though finally, just over 5 minutes gone here in the 35, and as I say that, the further down the group, Sam Schmelzer goes for a spin and drops to 30th.
Yeah, an awful news for those guys as they tumble down the order. But for these guys who were just keeping their noses clean, they are just finding themselves gaining positions without having to do much there as Sam Schmelzer going around. I think he's just hissed the barrier or somehow got the car stopped inches away, but either way there shouldn't be too much damage to that car. As you see side by side through turn 1, Joel Peguero, part of this battle towards the back of the field. You can see the end of the train just there. So these guys a long way down the order, but they have picked their way through. The likes of Park Hilliard, the likes of Jeff Calfold, who have been caught up in all the incidents earlier, meaning that this is now a battle for P23 when these guys started a little bit further back than that.
Yeah, exactly. Colin McKenzie isn't gaining any places because of these crashes, which is that's sort of the problem for him, I suppose, of being further up. But he is still gaining loads of points on Ryan Chandler, who, as you say, has been making progress. That's, of course, an overall position that he's gained. He's gained 2 class positions, I should say. He's gained a lot more overall positions. He's up to 24th now. But even so, it is still far too far back for Ryan Chandler, losing well over 20 points to Colin McKenzie, and he would, as a result, be losing his championship lead to him as well as things stand, although it's getting close between Luke Davis and Colin McKenzie. They were both separated at the start of the day by 7 points. There's 4 positions between them. I think Davis was just about to take the championship lead, but he wouldn't be very many ahead of Colin McKenzie. Andrew Trickett, meanwhile, is in the way of William Fenson, and that's how Fenson will see it anyway, as his Ryan Osborne continues to run away with the lead, and I'm sure you may have noticed at home, he's setting fastest lap after fastest lap after fastest lap. Group best is 1:43.9. He's actually gone faster so far in this race than he did in qualifying.
And again, he's the only driver underneath 1 minute 44. I think the closest that we've got is William Fenson with a 44.3, which is still 4 tenths down. Some incredible pace at the front from Azariah Osborne, and a near 4-second gap inside. What, 8 minutes? It is just staggering to see. And let's see how big he can drag this out over the rest of the race. William Fenson, though, looking for a move. This could be crucial. He needs to get past Trickett. Maybe not the outside into the chicane, though.
No. But where else are you going to do it? That's the end of the longest straight, of course, at this circuit. And if you can't do it there, where are you going to do it? Colin McKenzie would really rather they just got into line in hopes that the second group just behind them doesn't quite catch up to them, because at the moment they are catching. Eric Terry-Hart leading the charge, just a second and a half behind these guys now.
Yeah, and Terry, that gap is closing. Meanwhile, the gap at the front is growing. So Trickett really is going to be the front of the train of quite a few cars in the very near future. William Fenson nearly kissing the back of Andrew Trickett's car. They're just applying the pressure all the way through the toe. They'll get towards the heel now, but it's like you said when they got to the end of the straight, where else can you make a move? You can get close, but there's no heavy braking zones to be able to try and almost launch the car to the inside and lay claim to the racing line. Here is Felix Feliz fighting Tyler Graf. Graf could do with some positions as well, mind you, because he's still in the title battle, albeit 23 points back.
Yeah, I think he's the last driver who can lay a claim to the title from here, although I still think it's a bit of a push for him to get there by the end of the season. Just by the way, on Jeff Coulthard finally, before we leave him to drown his sorrows probably here tonight. He's out the race, by the way, with Park Hillard down at the very back of the field. I think it's the direction of travel that's the worry for Coulthard for me. He's won a race this season, second round of the season he was victorious. He's been on the podium, as I say, in the first 5 rounds, but these last 2 rounds, this one included, have been the first 2, and so far the only 2 where he's not been on the podium, and that's the wrong direction of travel really going into the last few races if you're trying to win this title.
Yeah, and it's going to come down to these fine margins throughout the rest of the season. As Dino Vella, you're not going to make a move on the inside there in the number 777. That would be a very brave place to make a move. They're still going to be going side by side as they run up the hill. Reagan Chandler and Alex Wright going at it as they get back towards this back straight. But I do think there's also fighting for P2 with Fenson and Trickett swapping positions.
They are indeed, and Fenson is now through. So we... where would that have even happened? I guess the bus stop chicane, it must have happened. There's the aftermath. Further behind, Jay Steffi and Luke Davis were going side by side. Davis got through, so he's certainly back in the championship lead there. But as I said, McKenzie would really rather these two didn't have that battle just up ahead of him, because it's cost him a lot of time. Although now he's going for the move. Maybe this is the right outcome in the end. Oh, as he just makes a bit of side-to-side contact there with a Porsche. Down in towards turn 8. He's going to brake late on the inside line here. Oh, he just misses the apex slightly, and Trickett gets into the side of him. He's forced to run wide, and so the Porsche will hang on to 3rd place.
Yeah, and Colin McKenzie's still trying to find a way through, but he's going to have to sit where he is for the time being. And look at where Eric Terry-Hart gets. That gap was 2.5 seconds not too long ago. He's now right on the tail of this battle for P3. Colin McKenzie looking for an incredible result for an AM driver inside the top 5, looking for a podium for an AM driver, which is I don't think we've seen that at all this season from anybody. I don't think anybody's even got very close either. So this would be an incredible day for Colin McKenzie. The only issue that he's currently having is Luke Davis is gaining positions all the time. That gap that he's now got, he's only 3 positions. Yeah, I think he'd back himself to keep ahead of Luke Davis if push came to shove, but he wants more points, and you can't blame him for that. Andrew Trickett's in the way for him.
Yeah, he'd be gaining 5 as things stand. 4 as things stand, but no more than that, as Terry-Hart gets very close behind now in the Mustang, towering over him here in the Ferrari, and stays behind just for the moment. Tyler Graf will gain as a result, and this group may get a bit larger now. Trickett is proving himself, I think, to be the cork in the bottle just a little bit here in 3rd place.
Yeah, sorry, Tyler Graf went around. You can see him there. You could just see him in the background of the shot, bouncing across the grass and losing the car. A miracle that no one else has hit him, actually, in the middle of the carousel, but that's destroyed his title chances, you'd say.
Yep, it certainly has. He DNF'd last week as well, or the week before, I should say. And this result here surely takes it down to a 3-driver fight at the end of the season. As things stand, Osborne would be gaining, I think, the full 5 points over Fenson, bringing the gap down to 7. There is Graf's spin. I mean, I'm a little bit surprised we've only seen that for the first time tonight.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Sort of getting a bit scared over there, but we were looking behind. I just saw in the background a car going sideways. I was like, that's not really what's meant to happen. But yeah, gutting for him because he was in with a chance. He needed to gain time. It's likely that he was pushing a little bit too hard to gain. Well, that's getting close. David Morse has got close to a wall as well, as has whoever that is. That David Morse dropping down the field? It very well could be, but that's near the front of the field, is it not?
Yeah, it is David Morse dropping down.
It is David Morse.
Simple spin at turn 9 again. Not the first time we've seen that here tonight. Of course, he's now found his place in this group. Right on the outside of him, one of the BMWs now, Christopher Ryan's looking to make up some more places. He's going to go very wide there, though. That's not the way to do it. And here comes Kevin Berkowitz just in behind him. Ryan Chandler's leading the group just behind these guys, by the way. He needs to get amongst these guys very, very quickly. Indeed, Ryan Chandler currently in 22nd place. As things stand, losing 19 points to Colin McKenzie. That would certainly cost him his championship lead. And Luke Davis would also get ahead of him as well. At the end of the day, as things stand, it's not been the day that Ryan Chandler needed at all. This could be his worst result since he finished outside the top 30 all the way back at Le Mans at the start of October.
Yeah, which feels like a lifetime ago. It's gutting for the time being, and you really struggle to see where it's going to improve from here. Also, a word on Thomas Rhett, because of course he comes into this race 5 points back. He's down the order. He's in the mid-20s at the moment, so he's going to be losing out quite heavily to Colin McKenzie and to Luke Davis. It almost feels like, even though Ryan Chandler does have the points advantage for the time being, Luke Davis and Colin McKenzie are going to fly in front, and it's going to be very close between them with only 2 rounds to go.
As things stand, it would be 4 points in favour of Luke Davis between the two of them. But Davis is continuing to make progress. He's now ahead of Jay Steffi at the top 5 of the race. Because we do notice this about the GT3 Fixed Series, slightly different to the Sprint Series. The drivers very often are right up towards the pointy end, although it's happened a little bit more in the Sprint Series in recent weeks. Matthew Brewer, for example, 2 weeks ago, won the AM Championship race from 5th place at Montreal 2 weeks ago, so it is happening a little bit more. But I mean, for example, at the start of the season, it was way down outside the top 10 for Steve Baker, who won that opening race of the season. It's very, very different indeed in the Sprint Series Championship. As I was saying, McKenzie now overtaken by Eric Terry-Haag, so the gap now just 1 point between McKenzie and Davis, and indeed the battle for the race win, never mind the championship, the race win itself could be in play here today.
This is really going to be an interesting race, no doubt about it. We've already seen 15 minutes worth of quality racing. These last 20 minutes could really swing championships. Colin McKenzie had such an advantage coming into this race. All of a sudden, that's disappeared, quite frankly. Luke Davis can now set his sights on trying to get through on Colin McKenzie and to try and change the face of what looked like a very good day for the number 15 car. But Colin McKenzie himself still trying to get through on Eric Terry-Haag, who, to Terry-Haag's credit, has been consistent enough this season to not have too many headline results, only 2 top 5s. Yet he's top 5 in the championship. So a driver who's been consistent, not quite getting those results. We're kind of seeing a theme, aren't we? Trickett, Terry-Haag, McKenzie, even Davis and Steffi. Some of the big hitters not performing tonight in the way that they would want to, and incidents galore with them as well. So it has opened the door, hasn't it?
Still 19 minutes to go here at Watkins Glen. This group for 3rd place is the one for the highest position. Further behind, Luke Davis is heading a group for 6th place, going all the way down to David Bush, the 3rd in 11th in that Audi. The pink Audi you can spot in the background. That's 6 drivers involved in this one, and while it's not really containing many of his AM rivals, Luke Davis, it contains more pros against him than it does against AMs. However, he does need to keep them behind because they do score points in an overall basis. Here comes Jay Steffi on the way in towards the bus stop. He has a look. Oh, he doesn't quite go for it though. That is the kind of stuff that Luke Davis would really do without, to be honest, in the next few moments of this race.
Yeah, he needs to keep a cool head on right now. He needs to try and gain up towards the back of Colin McKinsey, but maybe it's the carrot dangling in front of his face of Colin McKinsey that he knows he needs to gain a little bit of time and is therefore pushing a little bit more than he otherwise would, but he just has to be careful. Steffi, Felice, Mejria, Keane, Bush, all behind him. Will be picking up the pieces if he leaves any down for them, so he's got to be careful. Yes, he probably has his sights set on getting towards P5, but if something goes wrong for him, he could find himself tumbling down to P10.
Very easily indeed. As they make their way into the end of the boot now. This is turn number 8, where you can run out quite wide there. Meanwhile, side by side for 12 by the looks of things between Ross Sortino and Matt Sheriff, and Sortino's through. That's an AM passing a pro there with relative ease by the looks of things. Sortino is 4th in the AM class, side by side further behind as well for 17th place, as this is Regan Chandler defending from Dino Vella. Then there's that Christopher Ryan group further back where Ryan Chandler is now involved. He's 21st, but he is now in with the group. Oh no, he's not anymore! Oh! Hits the back of the BMW and he spins into the wall. Chandler is going to be dropping down here, and as I said earlier on, he doesn't have a drop wheel to fall back on. He can't finish slow enough, and so he's going to possibly put himself out of AM Championship contention here tonight.
Yeah, this is gutting for him. He's going to be dropping 20, 30 points maybe even to his rivals. Really critical stuff. Steffi's going to get through on Luke Davis as well, so not a good minute or so for a couple of our title contenders in the AM category. But for Chandler, this could be disaster. He's had such a good run throughout the season, been so consistent, consistently getting more than 30 points, but this is really going to be a stain on that championship for him, that he's going to have to take these points. I mean, at best he has to take, or at worst he has to take 17 points. It's not looking good. Christopher Rhymes as well won't be too pleased. He went well off shot, but he's going to be equally as damaged, not just in not just in the car, but in his race as well, albeit not for a championship.
Well, what a disaster for Ryan Chandler. As he said, could lose 30 points today. That would put him at least 25 behind the championship leader. And that might well be unrecoverable with 2 rounds to go, although you do never know, because as I mentioned, none of the AM Championship contenders can take their drop week today because they can't finish low enough. At least if you're inside the top 8, you can't finish low enough. So it's very tricky indeed for everybody. Into the pit lane comes Philip Felice from 8th place. Eric Terry-Harger's done the same, and so it's very much pit stop time now. It'll be a good run here for Jarrett Keane, as Pete Mezia just had to slow down to let Felix Felice get into the pit lane. It's a very awkward one to do here at Watkins Glen, but Keane doesn't take advantage of it.
Yeah, he's going to stick behind. I mean, he's not keen to get through for the time being. We'll see if he can find anywhere else to make a move. Felix Felice is coming into the box, and we're starting to see a flurry of pit stops. Terry Haag is really our first front runner that's come into the box. We'll see how that impacts his race and if he comes out into much traffic. But for the time being, I don't know how much he's going to be able to break via Osborne here, because he's cruised away from the rest as if he's on a nice Sunday afternoon drive.
Not sure who. Yeah, it's a Corvette. Sorry, that engine noise was extremely off-putting. Sounded like a karting race. Anyway, the race off pit lane between a couple of Corvettes is going to be sorted out here as the first round of pit stops really gets underway here from Watkins Glen with just under 14.5 minutes to go, or just over, I should say. Out the pit lane first of those who pitted this time is, of course, Eric Terry-Harger. He was first in. Then it is Felix Felice. Nicholas Johnson's got himself in amongst those guys who come out the pit lane. Amongst them, of course, were Thomas Rep and Ryan Chandler, you just saw going side by side. Chandler making his way back out again. I'm not actually sure that McLaren we saw, that car we saw in the wall was Ryan Chandler, was it? I probably called that wrong at the time. Well, we're looking at Regan Chandler here. Down the inside anyway for the Corvette through the S's. And that was a good pass indeed from, it was Ryan Chandler, I think, on Thomas Rep. As far as I can tell anyway. As Isaiah Osborne comes into pit lane from the lead. Yes, that is Ryan Chandler. Apologies, I called that wrong earlier on. It was Joel Pagero who found himself in the wall. But indeed, the same applies. He's probably out the championship as a result of it. As meanwhile, come into the pit lane for nearly everybody, apart from David Bush, who goes around again.
It's almost like follow the leader into the pit lane, isn't it? Quite literally, because Zara Osborne came into the box. Interesting to see how this will work out for David Bush and Dino Vela, who are going to have their minute and a half or so in the sun at the top of the timesheets. Where is Eric Terry Hargo? I think we just saw him flash to the final corner. Actually, that's him going towards turn 1 on the right-hand side of the screen. He disappeared. How high can he get? He's going to be ahead of Andrew Trickett quite comfortably. Can he be ahead of William Fenson? I don't think he can. Oh, it's close with Trickett on the exit, actually, but he should be able to cover it off. Oh, getting tight through the S's, though, and it's not going to be the best of runs for Terry Harg up towards the bus stop chicane.
Well, let's see who prevails here. It's the Porsche ducking into the slipstream of Andrew Trickett and Terry Harg, I should say, and in towards the corner. He's not going to be able to get anywhere near on this occasion, but that's good news for Terry Harg here. Very good news indeed, because Andrew Trickett is certainly has the potential to keep somebody behind for quite a long time in the stint, and Terry Harg has sort of foregone that. He might be on his way to a podium as well. Trickett out in what will be 4th place, Mackenzie out in what will be 5th. Steffi and Felice are ahead of Luke Davis, and so Mackenzie now gaining a couple more points back again.
Yeah, and of course you have to presume that all of those positions are going to be bumped up by 2, especially in the top 7 or 8 when David Bush and Dino Vela come into the pit lane, so a little bit of a boost there. Zara Osborne is nearly going to catch Dino Vela, who hasn't made a pit stop yet, which just shows how good his pace has been. But the fact that we're seeing Eric Terry Harg now in a podium position shows how good he has been in this race. He didn't quite qualify near the front, but he worked his way through calmly, went about his business in a very concise manner, and he's up to what will be P3 when they come across the line with David Bush and Dino Vela, presumably both coming into the box.
Somewhat surprised they've got the fuel to do that, but anyway, they've decided they have, and it's worth it. So with just less than 12 minutes to go, the pit stops are now complete. William Fenson will be second behind Israel Osborne, who's just taken the lead back again. What's the gap going to be? It should be just over 5 seconds, and it is. Eric Terry Harg next up, although he's coming under real pressure from Trickett now, with Mackenzie in 5th place. David Bush coming out next as Trickett gets a nicer run there. Terry Harg all over the place, coming out of the corner. And there could be some real trouble now for the Mustang as they make their way up the hill here. Could we see an overtake here for Andrew Trickett into the chicane, or is he just not quite going to have the power? The Porsche, of course, not as powerful as the Mustang. He's got the slipstream advantage, but he hasn't got the power advantage, and Terry Harg stays in 3rd.
Yeah, and looking pretty good for Terry Harg for the time being. Andrew Trickett trying... I wasn't even going to try and say this, but trying all of his tricks to try and get through, but not actually going to be able to do it this time around. Time is starting to tick away, of course. We've just got over 10 minutes to go. We're into the closing third of the race, and, you know, with Watkins Glen not throwing up too many overtaking opportunities, you're going to see that time almost evaporate in front of your eyes, and drivers are really going to have to be getting the moves, or attempting the moves now, otherwise they're going to be really struggling to make a send in the last couple of laps.
So gap about 10 seconds from 3rd to 1st here. Just an update, by the way, Luke Davis further behind because David Bush has got ahead of him. I wasn't expecting him to be jumped by quite so many pros, actually, but Luke Davis has dropped down the order here as a result of all of this. His pit stop, 13.3 seconds, is the longest of anyone's inside the top 10, and so he's been jumped by 3 pros. Chase Steffi, Felix Feliz and David Busterford, all of whom you can see just up ahead of him from this onboard shot here with the Lunchik Jelly Ferrari. Davis currently losing 4 points to Mackenzie. He comes into the day with 7 ahead of him, so he would be leading the championship as things stand by just 3 points, pending, of course, what happens to Ryan Chandler, although given the fact Chandler is so far down at this stage and not really making the progress he needs to quickly, it's safe to assume these two will be the championship leaders, and at the moment it will be Davis by a narrow margin.
Yeah, it's going to be such a tight run into the final 2 rounds. It's going to be dramatic to see if Mackenzie or Davis can just about pull themselves in front, either in the closing stages here by getting an extra couple of positions, or over the next 2 weeks with the championship on the line. David Bush looks pretty keen to get through on Felix Felice, another driver who's been quietly working his way up the order. David Bush, currently P8, started back in 13th. And clearly doing a good job of just quietly going about his business. Biggest mover inside that top 11. And you can see why. He's gaining positions when drivers make mistakes and opportunistically making a couple of moves on his rivals as well.
So, this is the Group 4 6th place. Although Steffi's getting away from it a little bit. Just behind them, you can see Jared Keane and Pete Messier. Messier is 3rd in the AM class as things stand. I've already talked about him as a championship contender, but he is there or thereabouts. 22 points behind Luke Davies coming into the day, so he'd be 24 behind at the end of it. He's still there. You know, you wouldn't be shocked if he turns it around from there, but it is difficult. It's of course worth remembering, unlike all the other series in the Precision Racing League this season, we still got 2 more rounds to go after this one. Fuji's coming up next week, and Sebring's coming up the week after that as our championship finale. And so there is still time to gain some of these margins back again, unlike there is in the other championships you'll be seeing this week, which of course will be finishing up next week. Through the final course they go. Philly's looking a little bit at sea at the moment, and David Bush, the third, is growing into this race time and again. He's up 5 pro positions so far today, and looking for a 6th here on the back of the first of the Corvettes in the field.
Yeah, and tight margins between these guys as they run through turn 1 and turn 2. Corvette with a good release off of the corner, but let's see if David Bush could do anything about it as they run their way over the hill through the S's, just attaching himself to the back of Felix Felice. And let's see if he ducks out of line as they get onto the straight. He's going to have to be forced to the outside line. Felix Felice not going to be giving up the inside too easily. It's a big advantage to have an inside line into this bus stop chicane, and you'll see it there with David Bush having to back out. But clearly, drivers trying everything they can to make their way through. Time really ticking away, but for a lot of drivers, this is such a big opportunity.
Terry Hart still holding on to third ahead of Andrew Trickett. Colin McKenzie giving himself a bit of safe distance, or indeed he can't keep up. I think he's just giving himself a safe distance ahead to fall back on in case there's a crash. Doesn't need to get involved in anything silly, does McKenzie. He's banking a nice amount of points, even if he won't be the leader after today. He'll be there or thereabouts, and that's exactly where you need to be at the end of the day. As far as he's concerned, currently gaining 4 points, as I say, on Luke Davis to bring the margin down to 3 from where it is at the moment. There is David Bush, the first, still applying pressure to Felix Felice. These two 7th and 8th currently in the race. Bush is in 11th in the standings, and so with a couple of absentees today, he should be appearing in our top 10 at the start of next week's broadcast. Felix Felice has got an outside chance of doing the same, although he's 14th as things stand in the standings. These two right around the same part of the order. Low-end top 10 result is exactly where you'd expect to find them. And Bush has got another chance to improve that positioning towards turn 1, though he doesn't get it. And Terry Hogg sliding again here. Trickett constantly getting good runs out of turn 1, but just not powerful enough on this back straight here.
No, but this is all leading Colin McKenzie to join the fray as well, as we see David Bush, Felix Felice fighting it out on their way through the S's. Felix Felice not being able to hold back David Bush for too much longer. Let's see, can Trickett make a move on Eric Terry Hogg up towards the bus stop? Terry Hogg defending the inside line and going to be able to keep the position, but you can see Colin McKenzie getting a little bit of a better run than Trickett through the bus stop chicane. Same can be said for David Bush. David Bush, of course, ahead now of Felix Felice. Where can he go? Could he try and catch Jay Steffi?
Oh, look at the inside there from McKenzie on Trickett. They're all getting closer here, but that's a bit of a surprise really where that move took place, to be honest, for the Audi. Getting ahead of Felice, and now Luke Davis really does close in. Pete Meggio has overtaken Chad Keane a bit further behind as well. Moves up to 10th place. His gap to the championship at the end of the day will be 23 points as things stand. Out of turn number 7 they go, and Bush is putting some distance into Felice. Maybe Davis is going to have a chance in these final 5 minutes, and indeed final 3 laps as well.
Yeah, time is really of the essence. Not long left to go. Felix Felice, that's not the line. And here comes Luke Davis. Nearly went for the move, but the track tightening up as you make your way in towards turn number 9. It opens towards turn 10, but by then, the opportunity has gone for Luke Davis. He was trying everything he can. You can see Felix Felice, he's dropped back a bit as the number 10 car. Davis, he's in a prime position to try and attack. He just needs to pick a way through, as we saw David Bush do just a lap or 2 ago.
The sun comes out for the final few moments here at Watkins Glen. 3 laps to go for the leaders with 4.5 minutes remaining. Israel Osborne looks like he's on his way to a race victory here this evening in the 7th round of the championship. He'll have the full 47 points and the 5-point gain over William Fenson, who will hold on to the championship lead, although it will only be 7 points at the end of the day. Coulthard will be 15 behind with 2 races to go. As things stand, he would need Fenson to finish off the podium at least once in the final 2 rounds, which could be a difficult ask. Into the bus stop chicane goes Terry Hogg and Andrew Trickett. These guys not really fighting for the championship, of course, but Terry Hogg is very narrowly ahead of a lot of drivers in 5th place. in the championship, including Andrew Trickett, who's only 34 behind him coming into today. There's no scope for position change here, though. I don't think the Mustang too powerful on the straights, and the Porsche not quick enough where it needs to be. Jay Steffi, meanwhile, has found the wall at the bus stop chicane, and everybody promoted a place.
Yeah, massive hit for Jay Steffi, who was having such a good run in this race. For a driver who's down in P12 in the championship, was looking to get himself inside the top 10 and to really accelerate some good chances into the final couple of rounds. Is nearly what we saw Tyler Graff do. Graff just hit the tyre or the curb a little bit differently and got spat off a different way, but gutting for Jay Steffi. A top 10 was on the cards. It's all come undone now. Great news though for Luke Davis, that.
It is, and not so much for Mackenzie. The game for Mackenzie down to 3. It is always so tricky in the AMs, isn't it? I mean, that's a pro driver making an unforced error that has cost him a point, Mackenzie. You know, sometimes in the AM field, it must feel like the world's against you because there's almost nothing you can do to progress or indeed stop regressing your own championship position, which must be such a bizarre feeling.
Yeah, it's such a, you know, going up and down the field, you know, drivers really have to adapt to trying to make these situations work for them. And you can really see throughout the championship after 9 weeks who's been able to do that the best. But into this scenario, we've only got a couple of laps left. You really have to dial it in and really hone in on exactly what you need to do, hit your apexes, because if you miss one apex from here on out, that could be your chances of gaining a position over. It could put you under far more pressure than you need to be. And for Eric Terry Hart, you've only got one more trip to the bus stop chicane to defend. That's going to be the focus in his mind. Issue is, he's got a lot more to do on a track where every corner is going to make a big difference.
It certainly is. Time, by the way, when we started this race was just 20 to 9, so the conditions just brightening up are slightly a symptom of the fact we're racing through into mid-morning now. Same will be the case in the Sprint Series, of course, where we'll be starting at 20 to 9 as well. 7:15 start next week, and then a 6:30 start at the end of the season. I wonder whether we might move that forward. We moved to a, was it a GT3 race the other week, but earlier? I think it was, yeah. See, it was at Sebring as well, just to accommodate the sun going down so early as it does these days in winter. So maybe that will get changed, but that's completely unofficial. That's just me speculating about what we might see. It is brightening up though as the white flag now waves. Terry Hart with just one lap now to hang on to a podium. It would be his first in this season, of course. Second in a row, but a nice little run for him now, created either side of the week off.
Yeah, it's been a really important moment in the championship. Well, I say moment, it's been a really important 35 minutes. I mean, drivers clearly performing well, clearly not performing well. We're going to see big swings in championship pictures. But Azariah Osborne is going to see a very, very good result in his column. It couldn't really have gone much better for him, could it? I mean, he got pole by, 3.5 tenths. He's going to win this race if he gets it to the end by over 6 seconds. It's just been a dominant display. It's not one that we've really seen from anybody else. He's looking like he's going to pick up a full complement of 57 points as well, and he's going to go from being 12 points back in the championship to closing that margin to within 7, I think, and I think it will be 7 to William Fenton. Jeff Calfold's going to be a long way out of the picture as well, but this is exactly what Osborne needed.
Fantastic drive from Osborne for the 3rd week in a row now. He was finally getting that winning streak going at Interlagos. 2 weeks ago he won at Montreal as well. Now though, he's conquered Watkins Glen, and this is probably his most dominant win to date. Certainly this season, it's been absolutely immaculate from Azariah Osborne. Again, coming through the final corner for the 3rd race in a row, Azariah Osborne takes the victory, and for the 6th time in his PRL career, he is a race winner again, as further behind, Colin McKenzie is going to take victory in the AM class to reduce his championship margin to Luke Davis, the new championship leader, although a late mistake from Felix Feliz is going to cost him a top position. It's also going to cost McKenzie a point in the championship. Feliz drops to 10th. Will Dale Pedersen get him to the line? He weaves around. Oh, he's all out of shape is Feliz, but he does get 10th place in the end. In fact, yes, he does get 10th place, and he hangs on eventually after that late crash. And speaking of which, there's a late crash further down for one of the Ferraris there that also is suspension damage now for Alex Wright. That's a very unfortunate moment for him as well. 2 crashes within 3 corners on the very last lap.
Yeah, and crabbing all the way to the line, just about gets it across the checkered flag, but down in P24, gutting to have positions lost so close to the end of the race. Everybody else now coming across the line. Sean Mulholland, we saw there, Nicholas Johnson as well. Drivers who didn't have the cleanest of races. But, I mean, Azariah Osborne had a clean race, and you can see why. 6 seconds of a win.
6.5 seconds in the end. Fantastic drive from him with William Fenton. Eric Terry-Hag rounding out the top 3. It's Andrew Trickett and Conor McKenzie rounding out the top 5. McKenzie, the AM winner, of course, head of David Bush and Ben Luke Davis, who will be the new championship leader in AM. Pete Measure will be 8th in that race, ahead of Jared Keane and Felix Feliz, who limped over the line, rather. 11th place was Dale Pedersen, 37 thousandths away from that top 10. Ross Sortino finished in 12th place, ahead of Matt Scherf, David Morse and Warder Warden, who had a very quiet day but finished in 15th place. Regan Chandler 16th, ahead of Charlie Graff, and Ryan Chandler, who finishing down in 18th place, loses 9 points to Luke Davis and will indeed lose his championship lead as well, though he'll only be 5 points behind in the end. Thomas Rep and Dino Vella round out the top 20. Carson Quint 21st, ahead of Kevin Bergqvist, Sam Smeltzer, Alex Wright and Ryan Luna in McLaren land, it feels like, down there. Barry Cochrane finishes 26th, ahead of Sean Mulholland, Nicholas Johnson, the final drivers on the lead lap. Jay Steffi finishing 1 lap down after his crash at the bus stop chicane. Joe Pagero finishing 9 down after his crash in the final corner with Christopher Rhines just before the pit stops. Sully Sad finished 16 down, 17 down for Carl Kober, Jeff Coppode and Park Gillard. Those last two, of course, crashing at the outer loop. Let's drop to Azariah Osborne after winning for the 3rd time in a row. Welcome in, Azariah. Good to have you again. And you are on quite the run of form at the moment. Just tell us where this confidence is coming from to give you the 3rd win on the bounce now.
Shockingly, I've actually been really slow at this track, but I was able to put in a lot of work this week, and yeah, thanks to my nephew Chris, we're able to find at least 2 extra seconds compared to how I was here last time. So yeah, it worked out really good in the end.
And you were the only driver as well to get into the 143s all day long. You managed it in the qualifying session and indeed the race. What do you think this does now for the rest of the season, now that you've taken another 5 points off of William Fenton's championship lead?
Well, hopefully it'll put me a little closer than I was hoping to be, but I plan on doing some damage control for Fuji, and hopefully we can get another win at Sebring, and we'll see what the points goes from there.
We certainly will. Israel, congratulations on winning again tonight, and thanks for coming to chat to us as well.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Israel Osborne there, winner for the 3rd night in a row, 3rd week in a row, I should say. William Fenton just behind him, finishing in 2nd. Welcome in, William, again. Good to have you with us. And back into the podium places for your 3rd second in a row to Israel Osborne every single time. How did you race around here, first of all? How did you find the circuit? And was there anything you could have done about that Ferrari out front?
Nah, absolutely not. He had a different level of pace today. Once I lost him after the start, and Andrew and I were racing a little bit, he got away, and that was pretty much the end of it. I knew I was just fighting to hold on to that podium position.
You've lost points, I say, in the last 3 weeks now to Israel Osborne since your last win, of course, which came at Barcelona. Is that a concern going in towards Fuji and Sebring, these final 2 rounds, with that 7-point lead that you now have?
For sure. I've got to find something else, don't I? He's just stepped up a little bit, and now I've got to try and match him. At least keep up with his pace, so we can have a bit of a race.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to watch indeed. William, congratulations on finishing 2nd again here tonight. Thanks for chatting to us as well.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks very much. William Fenton, 2nd place here tonight in the Pro class. Just ahead of Eric Terry-Hag, who finishes in 3rd place for the 2nd race in a row as well. Bizarrely, we've got the same podium 2 weeks in a row. Welcome in, Eric. Good to have you with us. Of course, best of the Mustangs on the podium again. How did you feel this race went tonight?
It went better than I thought it was going to. After qualifying 7th, I thought I was going to be stuck further back in the pack. This track's just incredibly hard to pass on. Got extremely lucky missing the lap 2 or 3 wreck. A couple guys ahead of me took each other out, and then fuel strategy got me in front of Andrew and Colin, and just was able to hold on. Andrew was so quick, but I was just able to put my car in the right spot and hang on.
Yeah, I mean, how much credit are you going to give to the Mustang and how much to yourself? Because it did look like a real struggle for Trickett to even get alongside you at any point, to be honest. You kept him at bay very well.
The thing has a lot of torque. There's a couple corners I was beating him on, just being able to get on throttle, but there's other corners he was just completely outbraking me. But just the nature of the track, it's hard to make a move. It was a handful. It was a real handful to hold on.
Certainly. Well, congratulations for holding on and getting third place here tonight, Eric, and thanks for coming to chat to us as well.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Eric Hug. They're third here tonight, ahead of Colin McKenzie, of course, who finished not only fourth overall, but actually in the win in the AM class as well. Welcome in, Colin. Good to have you with us, and an AM victory again for you here tonight. It's been, a little bit of a while until last round, of course, since we've been able to say that. How are you feeling after that, pulling off that performance here at Watkins Glen tonight?
Feels real good. Finally was able to put it all together tonight, and somehow, some way, I just came out with that W after the qualifying I had, and yeah, it's just really relieving after the season I've had this year.
Yeah, I mean, you're only 6 points behind Luke Davis now, as far as my maths goes, anyway. That could be wrong, but I think you're 5 or 6 behind anyway. It's very close, anyway, put simply, and it's close between a lot of you in the AM Championship. How do you think these 2 rounds are going to go at Fuji and Sebring as well?
It's going to be interesting. There are a lot of fast AMs out here. It seems like anyone on any given track can have a really good qualifying and put it up top, and then it's really just run a clean race, especially in the mix with all the pros.
Well, congratulations on mixing it with them tonight and getting the win. Thanks for coming to chat to us as well.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks very much. Colin McKenzie there, the winner in the AM class tonight. Well, that's the GT3 Fixed Series done for another week. We'll be back next week, of course, with the Fuji Speedway race coming up from 8:30 Eastern Time, as always. But don't go anywhere. We've got GT3 Sprint Series racing coming up, an 82% chance of rain to whet your appetite for what is going to be a very interesting round 9 of the PRL GT3 Sprint Series coming up next. Watkins Glen, the scene for round 7 of the GT3 Sprint Series, part of the Precision Racing League, of course, for season 4 of 2024. Good afternoon to everyone. I'm Ewan O'Leary alongside Dareth Thacker and Hugo Louise still behind the cameras here for you this evening as we get in on the third last round of the Sprint Series. As things stand, the rain is not falling, but as I mentioned, there's an 82% chance of rain to split this championship apart. Buzzer Japan currently leading the way in Advanced Motorsports 1-2, separating the two by 10 points with Jaden Conwright in third place. Eddie Patinski's DNF at Montreal is putting back tied now with Emmett Lindqvist in fourth place. David Holland is fifth, although probably a bit too far back now, sixth, excuse me, probably a bit too far back to be involved in the championship. Just 1 point ahead of Sean Dickinson. Conor Wagner, Luke Wallace and Jason Allen round out the top 10. In the AM standings, Matthew Brewer is leading the way by 10 points ahead of Chris Long, with Steve Baker, the winner at Monza, in third. Miles Brown might be a bit too far back from there, 37 points back. Devon Brock is 44 back, with Carl Robertson just outside the top 5. Adam Henwood and Wesley Price round out the 7th place, or share the 7th place, I should say. Richard Sabeda and Chris Stewart round out the top 10. In the team standings, Advanced Motorsports are leading the way, and they've pretty much sealed this one now. Ferdinand Racing could maybe get it away from them at the 92 points behind. Solpecker third ahead of SRT Yellow, followed by SimCity Racing's teams. 20 points further behind them is Up Front Motorsports with Drive Trainer Motorsport, SRT Unit Sports and Orbit Drop Bear Motorsport rounding out the team's standings. Well, we've not got very long in qualifying to go, such as how long it takes us to go through the fixed series and whatever. We are in the final minute of qualifying here, final 2 minutes, I should say, of qualifying, and it's a familiar story at the top. Vincent Trepanier looks like he's on pole again here, unless anybody can snatch it away from him. It'll be his 4th of the season in this rich vein of form he's got going at the moment, stretching of course all the way back to Indianapolis, where he took his first race win of the season, first of 3 as it's turned out to be in 4 weeks. Well, Darragh is alongside me, but he's got his mic muted at the moment, so I'm sure we'll... There we go. Ahead.
Yeah, I knew that was going to happen at some point. I was going to say, the difference in Japan, I mean, he's been in such a good run of form that even that the race where he didn't get the win in that run of 4 races, he still finished on the podium. So he really has been the benchmark the last few weeks. We've been able to see how pleased he's been as well on the driver count the last few weeks as well. I'm sure he'll be dialed in qualifying now, but incredible run of form. And the fact that he's bringing along his teammate Therio as well just shows how good the Advanced Motorsport team have been after the early season was dominated by Fieldiness Racing.
Now, that's not a 1-2 today. Fieldiness Racing are also nowhere to be seen as things stand. Nick Ludecki is in 8th place. Where are the rest of them is the next question I've got, to be honest, because at the moment this is a long way further back than you'd expect to see them. And as things stand, I don't think Jaden Comright is even here, as far as I can see. No, he's not. So he will take his drop round. That will be a score of 34 back from Barcelona when he finished way down in 17th place. So he could be out of championship contention. I think this could be between Trepanier and Therio now to round out the season. Jason Irons put in a good performance here though in qualifying. He's currently 10th in the standings, but this is a really good performance from him in the McLaren, best of the McLarens indeed, just 2 tenths behind Vincent Trepanier currently on pole.
Yeah, and still looking for another lap as well. We'll see what he can do, and he looks like he's going relatively quickly on this final attempt. Not really anybody else that's going to be able to challenge, as we have hit 0 on the timer. I also wanted to quickly note about the rain. Actually, as Therio, I'm going to pause that thought because Therio going to P3. Alan's on the front row for the moment, but can he get himself further up? He needs a couple of tenths, but I'm not too sure at the moment.
I think he's going decently quickly. To be honest, I'm not sure if our sector times are just wrong on our end or whether he's just having a very long first sector at the moment. But anyway, hopefully this does count and we can see a good lap time here from Alan. Of course, these guys are able to tinker with the setups, and as a result, top 6 have all been able to get into the 143s, whereas before only Israel Osborne was able to. There goes Alan over the line. Might even be a personal improvement, but it's certainly not an improvement in position. No, it is not quite, I don't think, a personal improvement there for him. So he stays where he is, over the line for everybody else, and they will stay where they are. Thought Nick Ludecki was improving one stage, but he stays 8th. And behind Steve Baker, who's taken pole in Am. That's a very impressive lap time indeed from Steve Baker. But it's Vincent Trepanier again for the 4th time this season, taking pole position here this time at Watkins Glen. I'm pretty sure we're going to be seeing his pole lap time in a few moments' time, just when we exit this qualifying session. But what a last few weeks he's been having here. Ever since, as I say, he won at Indianapolis, the 3rd round of the championship. Trepanier has been on fire, that's for sure. And he's showing that again here with this pole lap here at Watkins Glen. On board we go with the Porsche for a look round. This is his 4th of the season and another show as to why he is leader of the championship as things stand.
Yeah, let's see how he does it into turn 1. Of course, we've seen all the way through the fixed race how drivers have been trying to use this to their advantage and using this outside curve. Trepanier, no different, but of course, as you mentioned, in the Sprint Series, you can tinker with the setups a little bit more, try and make the car come to you in a way that you can feel a little bit more comfortable behind the wheel. Let's see how he does to the bar stop. We've seen it being a tricky part of the circuit, as it always has been for decades, not just tonight, bouncing his way through the first part, bouncing through the second. You can see that the downforce working enough to keep him really high on the minimum speed through the middle of the apex and through the carousel as well. All the commitment around the outside. Oh my word, nearly going into the wall. I can't believe this is a pole lap time.
I was thinking this, I said it, didn't I? I couldn't believe Colin McKenzie set the AM pole earlier by nearly smashing himself into the wall. the bus stop chicane. Pastor Trapanier there nearly had a humongous crash, but anyway, he's held on. I guess that's what you get from this Porsche sometimes. It is still rear-engined, of course. It's not quite as rear-ended as it used to be, but even so, it does have a loose rear end. Less good in a straight line, as we know, but can still go decently well around the corner. And Trapanier is certainly showing it there. Clearly, it's controllable as well up the ragged edge, which he was able to control rather nicely. So it's been a good lap so far from Trapanier now, who's now coming through the final sector of the lap. This is the real fast sweepers, of course. These are the final two corners on the circuit. One to the left, one to the right, and then getting close to the wall on the outside line, but not scraping it. Otherwise, you will not count your lap time towards your total. And so Trapanier avoiding that and going over the line there with the fastest lap of the session. Steve Baker was fastest in the AM class, and his position is about half of any other of the AMs, actually, in the qualifying session. So it'll be very interesting to see what happened in his pole lap as well. But what a statement that is for Steve Baker, the Monza winner, coming into today 15 points behind Matthew Brewer. Chris Long is 5 points ahead of him. He needs a big day, of course, Judge Baker. There he is, and he's got a big qualifying, that's for sure.
Yeah, massive result from him, and let's see if he can really build on this as we work our way into the final, well, not just this race, but in the final couple of rounds as well. I wanted to quickly mention when we were in qualifying about the idea that we could have some precipitation, because in the US, I mean, many people in the States will know it's been an exceptionally dry last few months, particularly in the northeast. And officially right now, Watkins Glen is under, according to the US Drought, I think it's part of NOAA, but the US Drought Society, whatever it's called, is currently under an abnormally dry part or it's a command, whatever you want to call it. But the point is that it's not rained in 3 months up here in Watkins Glen in upstate New York. So a little bit of rain here would be almost alien to the people that currently live there.
Does that have any bearing on iRacing, or did you just want to flex some knowledge?
No, I just wanted to point that out because I found it interesting, and Ewan will verify this. That should come as no surprise.
No, I'm sure everyone else can verify this watching as well, that you'd find that interesting. You wouldn't be able to tell, would you? It's funny in iRacing that the track always looks as green as it did last time, even in a drought. So there you go. Clearly these plants don't need water. We could do with probably some of those in real life from iRacing, if they wouldn't mind telling us how they made them. That would be great. Anyway, let's stop blathering on about irrelevant weather facts and start talking about the grids, which is of course headed by Pastor Trapanier, as we've just seen. Jason Allen sets the best McLaren time of the session, and he goes second, ahead of Simotero, who's not on the front row with his teammate for the first time in a little while. Conor Wagner is in 4th place, first of the Mustangs. He's directly ahead of his teammate David Holland. Simpson is on the other row, on the other row, the inside, with 3 Porsches in a row. Steve Baker makes it 4 as the AM pole sitter in 7th, then of Nick Ludecki for Fildenez Racing, the only of that representative here this round. Ethan Bass and Peter Norbwell round out the top 10, with Sean Dickinson and Evan Mackay rounding out row 6. Still waiting, of course, for second in AM, and there they go. Chris Long and Peter Moller a little bit further behind. Chris Long at the moment 6 places behind Baker off the start here, importantly. Note that down for later. JR Williams and Miles Brown are sharing row 8 ahead of Matthew Brewer, the championship leader in the AM class. Noah Anderson is 18th, ahead of David Mendonca and Ryan Scowney rounding out the top 20, and indeed those who are within 1 second. Joshua Spears and Adam Hedwood are teammates and lining up on the inside line, with Wesley Price and Chris Stewart on the outside line of rows 11 and 12. 25th place at the very back of the field will be Richard Saavedra if he gets going. He should do as well. He set a lap time in qualifying anyway, so he should be getting going. Just 25 on the grid at this time round, which I'm sure a few might be a little bit disappointed with. We've seen so far 53 make an appearance in this season in some form or another, but unfortunately we are not getting even half of that here today, so hopefully we'll get some more for Fuji and Sebring towards the end of the season. Trapanier will get onto the grid on the front then, and he'll shortly lead the field around, but we're talking about the AMs again here, because we didn't get to properly in the warm session really. Even Steve Baker, I should say, is 7th. Long is in 13th. That would vault Baker ahead of Long by 1 point, and with Matt Brewer down in 17th, Baker would be 5 behind him as things stand. So it will be Brewer leading with Baker 5 behind, Long 6 behind going into the last 2 races. It's certainly work to do for Matthew Brewer as we get underway slightly later than the predicted time, actually at 9:30 in sim.
Yeah, so it's going to be a really critical start, I think, particularly for Matthew Brower back in the pack. He's got nothing to fall back on, and realistically, neither does Chris Long. Of course, 26 points that Steve Baker has to fall back on isn't going to be enough, really, to make him feel in any way safe. It's still a little bit, which could be important come the end of the race, especially with Brower not necessarily being exactly where he wants to be, but 40 minutes worth of racing. Going to be a bit of a slog in the opening few stages if you're a little bit further back than you want to be, but as we get through this race, we saw it in the Fixed Series, that we do start to get a little bit of gapping out. A couple of groups end up forming. Bridging that gap is possible. We saw Eric Terry Haag do it in the Fixed race. It's difficult though, and you really need to gain those positions early on if you want to have a chance of getting towards the front.
A good evening to Carl Robertson, who says he's gutted to be missing tonight's race at one of his favourite tracks, but he's here cheering on Miles Brown. Nevertheless, of course, his long-time teammate, he'll be starting from 16th overall and 4th in the AM class. Of course, we've got some support for Kevin Simpson, Steve Baker coming in as well as Matt Brewer as well, who, as we've just said, does have some work to do in the early part of this race. The question at the very front of the field, though, is going to be who can stop Mr. Trapani. I don't think there's going to be many to stop him now in the Pro Championship, but if there is anybody, it will be his teammate Terrio, and he's starting directly behind him there. You can see the 2 Advanced Motorsports teammates starting on the inside line together. Wonder how aggressive they will be with one another should they get in the situation of fighting for a championship between themselves.
How much could they have planned between them, how to start try and do this start to get themselves into a 1-2 position by turn 1? We'll have to wait and see. Of course, we did see a very good start from our P3 driver back in the Fixed race. Can we get a similar story, particularly when you've got teammates in the form of Trapani and Terrio, both on that inside line, one after the other? I think Jason Allen's going to have to be keeping a very watchful eye over his shoulder, because he is going to be under a lot of pressure early on. Trapani and Terrio have worked so well together this season that you'd almost be a fool to rule out them working with each other even before we've even got going in the race. So going to be a critical start, going to be interesting just to see how the fights happen in behind as well. Of course, we saw bunching down at turn 1 in the Fixed race, but not as much as we could have seen. The very fast starting as Ryer Osborne meant that we didn't really see too much of a concertina effect down there through the S's and up towards the bus stop chicane. But this could be a different story if we see a bit of a later launch from Vincent Trapanier.
Yeah, if he was watching, then I think he would be well advised to go early again, because I think it not only helped Osborne, but it actually helped everyone just get through a little bit cleaner. But if he hasn't been watching, or indeed wants to ignore the advice, then he might well wait a little bit longer. Terrio, of course, is going to be reacting to his teammate very quickly indeed, and I think very quickly Jason Allen could be shuffled down to 3rd, but let's wait and see. In towards turn number 1, look at how close Terrio is getting. He knows exactly what Trapani is going to do here. It's going to be coordinated between Advanced Motorsport teammates now as they make their way onto the straight. Waits a tiny bit longer than Osborne, but not too much. And Allen's going to get his wheels blown off here, I think. I mean, in towards turn number 1, side by side they go for 2nd place, as I say. Round the outside goes Allen. He knows that's hiding to nothing, and so he just slots back again with Conor Wagner in 4th place, slotting in as well. Next up is Kevin Simpson, David Holland and Nick Ludecki meanwhile go side by side up the top of the hill here. Through the S's they go, through the dangerous section, the narrowing over the crest of the hill here. They all get through cleanly for the... Oh no, they don't, not quite. At the back of the field, around goes one of the Porsches down the back of the field. It's Wesley Pro, who was... Peter Moller. Joshua Spears and Wesley Price starting from the pit lane for whatever reason. It's Peter Moller who found the wall as side by side up in the front again between Ludecki and Holland. Holland on the inside line, Ludecki going very wide. Still on the inside line though, in towards the boot. There's still, oh goodness me, that's close to making contact, but Holland just about going to get the place here.
A huge move off the start from Jason Allen to get back on Therio as they come in towards what is now the toe at turn 7. But Jason Allen was behind Simon Therio coming through turns 2 and 3. Got a great one out of the corner. They used the slipstream and got the move done once again on the advanced sim racing driver. So we'll see how he can try and respond. Therio can respond, I mean, to try and get back into P2. But Trepanier got away at the front. He's going to be frustrated, I'm sure, that his teammate isn't with him. But either way, for the championship picture, this is ideal for Vincent Trepanier. The rest of his competition, of course, Jaden Comright supporting his teammates in the chat. But Budzinski absolutely nowhere to be seen at the front. This has been an ideal start for Trepanier. All he needs really is for Therio to get ahead of Jason Allen.
And I'm pretty sure with the way things are at the moment that Bounce Motorsports will be seeing the Teams Championship as well, with still 2 rounds to go at the end of tonight. So it's looking very good indeed for them. Looking down the inside there from, who was that, David Holland on Kevin Simpson there. Evan Mackay and John Dickinson, meanwhile, go side by side into the first corner as well there. Dickinson in the Mustang being pushed down a position, although he's coming back again on the inside line of the McLaren. He gets in. That was Mackay just tucking in front of Long, who wants to get through here surely over the top of the hill. Can he get through on 2 in 1? Matt Brewer's already right behind him. It's been a great start for Brewer, who's restoring a good championship lead here into the final few rounds. Oh, he can't go anywhere here. Can Long. He is forced to stick behind as Mackay sends it in. He's ahead of Dickinson again, and he causes a stack up behind in this battle for 11th place.
Yeah, P11 in the championship for Evan Mackay, P11 in the race for the time being, as there's side-by-side action. Ethan Bass and Steve Baker just in the background going side-by-side as they work their way through turn number 6, and Steve Baker falling a little bit further back than he probably would like to be, especially considering he's fighting for that AM championship, which, you know, has no real bearing for the likes of Ethan Bass and Peter Nodwell, who are either side of Baker for the time being. Up towards turn number 8 they go, though. Any moves, anybody ducking out of line, not in the front 10. A little bit of moving in the background between J.R. Williams and Matthew Brower. Brower, we know that he needs those positions. He can't quite find it into turn 9, but turn 10 could be a nice place to make an inside move.
Yeah, initially a good start for Brower, but this is danger. He's on the inside, though, at turn 9, and that should give him the place again over J.R. Williams. He did well, actually. He just took back into line ahead of Miles Brown there, although he's flashing the light, says, get out of my way. Well, he's certainly not going to do that without being pushed here, is Matthew Brower, because he needs every point he can get in the AM Championship. Currently losing 5 to Baker and 1 to Long. They would be 9 and 10 behind him, respectively, going into the last 2 races if things stay as they are. A look down the inside again there from Dickinson on Evan Mackay. He can't quite do it in towards turn 1. It's almost a carbon copy of 1 lap ago. He still can't do it, though. Chris Long is just behind, wanting to take those places if he possibly can, but at the moment can't quite. It's close in the midfield, where the AM battles are really bubbling up here. This is what happened to Peter Moller. Contact with Miles Brown, and it's a miracle he wasn't collected.
Yeah, a little bit of a hit coming through towards the end, but nothing too major. In the live shot, though, that is Conor Wagner and Simon Therio. Therio getting overtaken by Wagner. That got very, very close to contact. A miracle that they both made it through the bus stop. But Wagner ahead, Therio falling back. He was P2 at turn 1, back to P4. Not looking good for him. He's got David Holland behind him now.
Brower's been overtaken by Williams as well. Miles Brown briefly was alongside him as well. But Brower, the championship leader in AM, under pressure again, further back for 15th place. It's all going on here at Watkins Glen in the first 5 minutes of this one. No rain as things stand. There's only an 18% chance that we get through today without any rain at all. That feels quite low. We'll see whether we do get precipitation for the 2nd round in a row here in the PRL GT3 Sprint Series, but for now we're in the clear. And for now, Conor Wagner's on the podium, just ahead of Simon Therio, who surely is trying to chase down his teammate, but unable to, while these Mustangs are busy sandwiching him in 4th place.
Yeah, running up towards the final couple of turns again. This train, as tight as can be, really, for P3, but Therio, you know, I really expected him to pull away in P2 when he got the position on Jason Allen, but it's really the opposite of that. It's just fallen backwards, not been able to challenge the drivers in front. Maybe the setup not working to his advantage. Seemed a little bit slower on the straights than his competitors. Maybe that was a bit of a setup choice that Therio went for, not working out for him for the time being. Good run out of turn 1. Let's see how the gaps change between Wagner, Therio and Holland down the straight. They give us a bit of an indication as to where Therio's gone on the setup, because he looked calm on the opening lap through this part of the circuit, but then when we cut back to the front, all of a sudden Jason Allen was ahead, and I think that caught quite a few people out.
Side by side further behind here between Ludecky and Bass. Oh, round the outside for Bass, spectacular move, and up to 7th place for the Long-time Ford driver Ethan Bass, now in the Mustang, of course, because he has to be, and ahead of Luke Decky now into 7th place. That will allow Steve Baker to have a chance as well. He was overtaken not so long ago by some of these guys. He's back, of course, on where he qualified, up in 7th place. He wants some of those positions back, but he can't quite get it for the moment, as Nodwell, Mackay, Dickinson and Chris Long all catch up to the group as well.
Yeah, through they go again. I mean, this has been such a frantic opening to the race. Only 6.5 minutes gone, but drivers really laying claim to a couple of key positions early on. Bit of a look from Steve Baker on Nick Ledecky. Nothing going on down into turn number 8. Peter Nodwell wouldn't mind if these two start battling away, give him an opportunity to find himself towards the top 8. But I mean, this train really goes from P3 all the way down to P12. Steve Dick, actually P13, Chris Long on the back of it. They're all on this little straight between turns 9 and 10, and barely anything to separate all of them. The biggest gap is about half a second or so.
Ledecky a bit wide there through the penultimate corner. Steve Baker will close in through the final turn. The top 3 look closest in this group, actually. There is always a danger at Watkins Glen that these groups can form and nothing really happens within them, but so far in these first 7 minutes, that has absolutely not been the case. This has been engaging stuff so far. Francis Chapalier leads ahead of Jason Allen and Conor Wagner. Although those top 2 are not really doing anything, it is in this group where the battles are. Wagner with Terrio just in behind, and we'll see whether the Porsche does have enough grunt on a straight to get through here. Same goes for Baker as well. Does he have enough straight line speed, or is it going to be Peter Nodwell making the move now? He looks up the inside, he doesn't go for it though, much to Baker's pleasure, I'm imagining there, as he can hang on, in that case, to 9th place.
Yeah, and Baker having a bit of a difficult time of it, trying to look for moves, but at the same time coming under a little bit of pressure as well. He wants to keep himself as far away from Chris Long as is possible, especially the likes of Brower gaining a couple of spots, early on in this race, doing everything he can. But tricky in these trains, especially when drivers have been able to have a bit of a play around with the setups, means that they will be expecting situations like this and will set up their car accordingly. Bit of a move going on for Ethan Bass though on Kevin Simpson just in the front here. Bass to the inside, Simpson using all the room on the outside, and using an outside line at a corner like turn 8 can be favourable because you can just kind of walk as far off the track as you want.
And the outside at turn 9 is hiding to nothing as well, because of the way that corner is cambered, so it's a pretty good way of holding on to your place. I do think the cars on the inside at turn 8 should run out a bit wider themselves. They seem to be giving space as if the car is on the outside is going to stay on the circuit, but they very rarely do, even if there's no one with them, so I don't see why they don't run it out to the curb themselves, to be honest. Maybe that will get them a penalty or get them a telling off, but I think they should be allowed to run them wide if everyone else is going to run in wider, as off goes Simpson. And that's going to help his run onto the straight as well, of course. We don't have the old rules in iRacing at Watkins Glen where that patch of grass was in the way to prevent you from doing that anymore. It's just the normal off-track rules back in force there. Ethan Bass not getting a run on Simpson, maybe as a result of that, and so continues to sit in 7th place behind Kevin Simpson in 6th.
Yeah, close margins between them though, as we have half an hour still left on the clock. A lot of time for these battles to develop and progress throughout the rest of the race. Also got to keep in mind the pit stops that drivers are going to have to be thinking about. We saw a pretty monotone strategy in the Fixed Series. We've seen a pretty monotone strategy all season long, really, so I don't think there's going to be too much discrepancy when it comes to when to pit. Bit of a slide out wide from Steve Baker all over the edge of the road, as we see move in the background from Sean Dickinson getting past Evan Mackay. Then Evan Mackay dropping down to P12, kind of ruining that P11 in the race, P11 the championship stat, but he'll be looking for the move, no doubt. Really interesting also to see some restraint on show, because drivers could be going for moves here. A lot of drivers going for looks, but they're not really going for it just yet.
They should really do something about that off track at turn 8, shouldn't they? But anyway, they're all doing it, so I suppose it's okay for now. Just looks exceptionally odd. Whatever happened to grass on the outside of circuits? When are we bringing that back into fashion? Anyway, Ethan Bass continues his pressure to Kevin Simpson in 6th. As the flagman watches on. It didn't like he's watching anything, to be honest. He's looks like he's staring into space. But anyway, in towards turn 1, Simpson will hang on. What's his run like, though? This is the key for the Porsche. Needs to get good traction, make use of the rear-enginedness and the traction that comes with it as well. Ethan Bass doesn't look close enough to me to be making a move into the bus stop, but that's, after all, not where he was closest last time round. In fact, it was rather bizarrely down in towards the heel of the boot when he was closest last time round. I wonder whether there will be a similar attempt this time as well, as he's just getting close towards the back end of the straight, but not quite close enough. Meanwhile, Miles Brown in the background is going side by side already as they get onto the back straight. He's in the right battle with David Mendonca, and the Porsche goes through. David Mendonca through into 16th place ahead of Miles Brown.
Yeah, Mendonca, a driver who's had his real flashes of brilliance so far this season, been fighting for a couple of wins, particularly back in Indianapolis, not able to do so tonight. Ryan Scalny to the inside. Oh, there's contact. Oh, around goes the 2-2-2 of Miles Brown. They're both off the road. They're going to drop down the order. Noah Anderson says thank you very much.
They're going to drop down to pretty much last, I'm afraid. Miles Brown is anyway. He's going to be passed even by Joshua Spears and Wesley Price, who started from the pit lane. Wesley Price, I should say. There is the Corvette in the wall. Yeah, I mean, to me, it looked like Scowney was looking up the inside. It was quite clear that he was looking up the inside to me anyway, and Brown didn't quite give him the room. He got tipped around as well. Maybe he'll have a different view of it, but it looked to me like there was space to be given on the inside there, and he didn't quite give it.
Yeah, but regardless, whatever it is deemed, or whoever is deemed to be at fault in that scenario, they're both being affected by it. Going to have to work their way back up the order. Mendonca probably pleased that he got away from that. Noah Anderson pleased to pick his way through, because they've now got a little bit of breathing room around them to try and dial themselves into the race after 15 minutes of really quite intense battling at the start of this one. But we are settling down in this race just to kind of see where drivers are stringing out. People are waiting around, maybe trying to psych out their opponents to make a move. No one really making any big sense, but we're still seeing close battles. Top 11 in this race, or top 12 even, split by only 8 seconds. So it is still incredibly tight and the margins are thin. But at the same time, they're wide enough that at a track like Watkins Glen, you can't quite make a send. You need to really be on the back, pushing drivers around the circuit to make any kind of a big dive bomb here.
Oh, goodness me, that was a slide for Wagner, and he knows he needs to defend. Simon Terrier will be right on his outside. Oh, they don't know where to look at the moment here. Terrier looks on the outside. He's going to get a good run out of this corner now, and he's going to have the initiative to go down the inside, I think, here. Holland is going to be trying to get through on him, so he's got to be really careful now in the Porsche. He doesn't get pushed out too wide. He's going to just tuck back in nicely, and so get his run on the way in towards turn 9. Does he go for the switch back? Oh, he might well do. He goes to the inside. Oh, he was trying to fool Wagner. He was going to go around the outside, then to the inside, but he couldn't quite do it. And Holland only closes in as a result. There's actually a bit of contact there, and Terrier's got some rear left damage now, but either way, he's still fourth. He's still going okay, and further behind, there was side-by-side between Steve Baker, I think, and Nick Ludecki. Baker got through. It's side-by-side further behind as well between Dickinson and Nodwell. Dickinson now gets through. Here goes Evan Mackay onto the front straight, trying to make a move as well, as does David Holland. He can't quite make a move, though, in the Mustang for fourth.
Yeah, and Terrier will have to stay where he is, but look into the background to see who can emerge inside the top 10. There's Evan Mackay looking for the move on Peter Nodwell as they run their way through turn 1 and 2. Barely anything to split those guys as they run their way through the S's. Meanwhile, we're looking at Therio on the back of Wagner. David Holden looking for moves as well. Wagner wouldn't mind these extra dose of points, but look at the straight line speed we're seeing from David Holland. Gaining ever more towards the bus stop chicane. Not enough to make any kind of move, but Therio clearly a little bit better in the corners than he is on the straights, because he is a little bit vulnerable into that bus stop, it seems.
A bit wide from Wagner there through the outer loop. But both Mustangs, maybe they're struggling a little bit with that corner compared to the Porsche. 25 minutes to go, by the way. 15 gone here in this race, and conditions remain overcast, but as things stand, rain does not seem to be falling despite the relative high chance of it, and so maybe we will get away with it here today. But let's see if we are going to be surprised late on, as this battle for third place continues to create a really quite large group. Chris Long is still involved in it, and he's 11 drivers further back down in 13th place.
This is kind of where we need a weatherman to tell us if the rain's going to hit the circuit or not. If it doesn't rain, it really does meet my fact about the drought, doesn't it? Would I'm a little bit triggered. That would please me more than anybody else, clearly. But I think for some of these drivers, I don't think they'll be wanting too much rain, especially considering how they have got themselves dialed into the race. Adding a bit of rain in, particularly towards the end, could mess a little bit, or quite a lot up for these drivers. Maybe could change the order around a bit and create a couple of incidents that otherwise would have been avoided. But with rain always comes danger, and I think that's really why drivers wouldn't want to see it, albeit that chance is still very high, and we're yet to see really whether we're going to get any of it towards the end of the race.
82% as far as we were told at the start of the day, and we're told by Hugo that rain is nowhere near at the moment, so we might get away with this. I mean, 80% chances, 18, sorry, I should say, is the chance that it won't rain, and you know, that's not an impossible chance of happening, so there you go. We'll see over the next 23 and a half minutes as we settle down now in this race. This is more like what I expected really from all the racing tonight. Bit settled, single file, but actually it's taken us a good 15 minutes to get here, and just as those 15 minutes of madness are over, the pit stops are just on the horizon for everybody as well here. It's not calm for very long in this group. There's some very, very important stops to come in the next few moments.
We are not quite halfway through this race yet. I mean, we have been almost waiting for action to kick itself into gear, but nothing really happening for the time being. On the front of pit stops, I think drivers are going to be thinking about when to go. The field is quite close together, so if you pitted now, you're unlikely to meet any traffic on any kind of overcut, so that could be an option for a couple of these drivers, but no one going in yet. I think we're likely to see drivers try and eke it out towards the half-hour mark in the race, which means about only 10 minutes left to go on the clock. We might see a little bit more left by the drivers, but even so, I think that's kind of the range that we're looking at for when we're going to see the pit stops. We've still got a few laps left, I would suggest.
Yeah, probably. Still 22 minutes to go. I mean, 2 laps to go until we're at halfway, for example. So, could be a while yet. Holland's really getting close to Terrio now, and look at that, they coordinate a slipstream now between the teammates, and the Mustang is on the outside line. It would be a good move if he can make it. He brakes early though. Oh no, he doesn't. He goes for it. Oh my goodness, I thought he was braking early to give him the place up, but no, Terrio now has to concede, and he drops to 5th place. Very well coordinated between the Mustang teammates. Conor Wagner pulled left onto the back straight, just as Holland did as well, to get the overlap on the Porsche to ensure that Terrio wouldn't get any slipstream. And David Holland gets up into 4th place around the outside at the bus stop chicane.
Yeah, really impressive move from David Holland, but Terrio will be kicking himself, no doubt. He's now going to find himself under pressure from Kevin Simpson and Ethan Bass if he's not careful about it. He's lucky, really, that his championship rivals, the likes of Conrad, Budzinski, Emmett Lindqvist, are nowhere to be seen. Yes, David Holland is in P5 in the championship. He's a long, or P6, I should say. He's just a long way back. 31 points coming into this race. Terrio almost looking for a move. But it just feels like Terrio has set the car up a little bit more in favour of these corners. The only issue is it's so difficult to make a move here in the corners that he can get close towards the final turns, just not close enough to make a move down the straights.
I mean, I think Terrio is showing why it was so important for Trapani to get the pole position and get the early lead, because this Porsche can struggle in traffic in terms of making overtakes. Fastest lap so far, by the way, in this race has gone to Trapani at the front of the field, and based on what we saw from the first race, the fastest lap is unlikely to change in the second half as J.R. Williams makes his way into pit lane for the first scheduled stop of the day. Ryan Scowney, Joshua Spears, Peter Moller and Adam Henwood have all made stops so far. They've all re-emerged, but they were all at least minutes long, and so they are a long way behind. We go back to Ethan Bass, who's just behind Kevin Simpson here. Can he work a pass on the Porsche, just as these fellow Mustangs did further up on a fellow Porsche a little bit earlier on?
And they'll bounce their way through the bus stop chicane. You can see that Ethan Bass is taking a little bit of a tighter line than Kevin Simpson through there. Maybe he's has the car in a little bit of a better working window for the time being. We'll have to see if that's reflected over the next few minutes. But through we go then into this middle sector, the real nitty-gritty parts of the lap where, you know, a lot of time can be gained or lost, and the somewhat slower speed corners, albeit they're still quite high speed and they're still very long up through the toe towards the heel as well, where we see drivers extending the track by nearly the entire width of the entire state of Delaware. So we'll have to see if that continues. But I think you're right. There needs to be something done about this. Because look at that. I mean, there's got to be a line that they draw somewhere.
Nice American joke there that I'm sure the viewers will understand, but I don't. That's good. Anyway.
The Delaware reference.
Yes, I don't really.
It's just a very small state.
That is. But anyway, Ethan Bass, we're right on board with now. 19 minutes to go, and they're all going to go past the halfway mark then, without stopping. This is a group from 3rd down to 7th. Steve Baker's beginning to lose the group, actually. He's got Nick Ludecki right behind, who might decide to duck in pit lane, but no, he carries on. Just in behind the AM leader, who's currently got 5 points over Chris Long and 6 over Brewer, although Matt Brewer is a long way behind this group. He's no longer part of it, so he's got to really focus on just executing and finishing this place rather than doing anything spectacular for the remainder, and hope he can pick himself back up next week at Fuji to make their way in towards the bus stop again. It'd be single file between these 5 at the front of the group for 3rd.
Yeah, and they bounce their way through the chain again. And again, it looks so much more comfortable under the control of Ethan Bass than Kevin Simpson through that bus stop chicane. Ludecki got past Steve Baker as well, so moves being made. Here comes Ethan Bass, actually, looking for a move on Kevin Simpson. Not able to do it down in towards turn number 6. I did double check for you, Ewan. At its narrowest point, Delaware is 9 miles wide. So nice. A little bit of a fun fact for you. Widest, I think, widest point, 35 miles. So there you go. Anyway, back to the racing. Oh, very wide. I mean, nearly that far wide, it seemed, from Kevin Simpson. Ethan Bass has got to line up the inside, maybe a dive into turn 8, but again, just not enough of an overlap, and this corner's not slow enough to really make us end.
Well, I think Simpson there just going a little bit wide. Ethan Bass just closing in. It would be unfair probably to call it an unforced error, but Bass certainly wasn't looking for a move. He certainly is now, though, as he's been given that bit of ambition by Simpson, going a little bit wide, looking up the inside there, doesn't go for it. In towards the fast left-hander, understandable as well. In towards the fast right-hander they go at the end of the lap, and they're still going here. Just over 17 minutes to go. These sprint cars can go a bit further, actually, than the fixed series cars can past the halfway mark. I mean, they were only about 5 minutes past the halfway mark in the fixed series before they were all gasping for fuel. Same is not true in the sprint series. This is further back. I mentioned earlier Wesley Bryce started in the pit lane. Well, that's only made things worse, I'm afraid. That was contact, I think, with Richard Saavedra in the Corvette, and he drops down just Bryce. But as I mentioned, only 2 drivers have made a scheduled pit stop so far. They're still both behind him as things stand, so that's the main thing, I suppose. But surely more scheduled pit stops to come very shortly.
Yeah, only about a quarter of an hour left of the race. You'd think that drivers are going to be looking to come into the box in, the next 2, 3, maybe 4 laps. Going very wide as a driver a lap down, I believe. That is going to be, it could be anybody, actually. I was trying to look at the timing tower to see if that could help me, but it could be either Moller, Scownley, Spears or Henwood. I think it could be Scownley. But either way, doing his best to keep out of the way, which is good to see, and not to interfere in the rest of the drivers. Problem for Kevin Simpson at the moment is that he's falling back from Ethan Bass. He's falling back from Simon Theriault, which means that he's falling into the grasp of Ethan Bass. Problem for Ethan Bass, though, he just can't quite find a place to make the move. He's clearly gaining in the opening part of the lap. He's just not gaining enough in the middle part of the lap, or keeping close enough to make it really work the next time he finds himself at the bus stop. But this is a tough little train. I mean, if I was Ethan Bass right now, I'd be starting to get really frustrated after looking at the back of that 606 car for the last 20 minutes.
Yeah, it would be, but I think he's going to be able to work his way through at some point, to be honest. Let's see if he can, though. Still no pit stops here. Finally behind, Steve Baker's in. So Ludecki got through, and Steve Baker pulls into pit lane, as does Sean Dickinson, who really gains there. That was a much better pit entry from the SimCity Racing Mustang, who now looks for his box. Of course, it's pretty difficult when you're following someone so closely to actually find your lollipop man, if they're still called that. Into the box they go. Dickinson a few boxes short of Baker. Matt Brewer comes in the background. Joe, you can just see the dark and red Porsche in the background there as well, just coming over the rise in the front straight. Now, will Baker stay ahead? Dickinson's going already, but he would be. And just a little bit shorter, 3 tenths shorter, should save Baker. And it does indeed. He at least holds on to his position ahead of Dickinson. The real questions will be asked in the next couple of laps, though, as the rest of them come in. Where is Steve Baker going to come out in relation to Chris Long?
Yeah, through they go. This is going to be a really, really important part of the race now. This is where we're starting to see where the drivers have gone with the strategy. Has it worked? Has it not? And we're going to have to see how that crossover ends up working. But for the time being, Chris Long staying out. Steve Baker has come in. What will the differences be? Long right on the back of Nodwell, looking like he's got a little bit of pace to use as he opens up the corner on the exit. He just can't quite find a way past Peter Nodwell, who himself is struggling behind Evan Mackay as they're on their way into turn 8 again. But time is ticking away. 14 minutes left on the clock. You'd expect, I think, a lot of drivers into the pit lane this time round. And if they don't come in this time, next lap, I think we will see a bit of an exodus into the pit lane.
Certainly, yeah. It's very possible. As here we go. Trapani is in. Wagner's in as well. Conor Wagner is in for sure. And following him goes Simon Theriault. There's a bit of a gap behind them now because of the pit stops that have happened already. Evan Mackay's in as well in the McLaren. So those are the ones from the leading group, as well as Noah Anderson as well coming in. Yep, he is. So 5 of them make their way in this time round, as Wagner is basically overtaken by Theriault in the pit lane there. That's slightly bizarre, as Trapani now waits, looks on the right hand side for the all clear, revs the engine, and now he's on his way. Out of the pit lane goes Trapani, and should be in the lead. What about the rest of them though? Theriault and Wagner. Theriault there will still be behind, of course, but he's a lot closer to him than before, and maybe that will allow Holland to get through in him as well. Through goes Baker on Dickinson, Mackay, Anderson, all of whom have made their pit stops there. And further up ahead, by the way, on this in-lap, Ethan Bass got through on Kevin Simpson. Will there be a similar pass from a Porsche onto a Mustang rather than the other way around this time round in this group? Here goes Theriault as he looks on the back of Wagner here, looking to get up to speed, but not quite quickly enough. Pulls to the outside in the Porsche. He can't quite go around the outside, just as Holland did to him a few minutes ago. And so he stays in what should become 5th place again.
Yeah, and they'll make their way down through the carousel with Wagner in a very comfortable position. He'll be feeling pleased to be ahead of Theriault at this point in the race. And let's see if Wagner can really now push on. Wasn't really able to do it when he made the move, but after we've now been through this pit stop phase, what can he do in that number 51 car to try and pull away from Simon Theriault and maybe try and get himself towards Vincent Trepanier, as difficult as that may sound with the gap standing at about 5 seconds. Still waiting to see Jason Allen come in. There he goes, David Holland and Ethan Bass and Kevin Simpson as well. They're the drivers at the front of the field. That's going to be interesting to see where they come out in perspective for the likes of Steve Baker, Sean Dickinson and Evan Mackay. But this is now where we're going to see the crossover. Only going to be 11 minutes or so once everybody has made their stops, and it's going to be an 11-minute sprint to the end to see who can gain any more positions for some championship aspirations.
They've got to be out of fuel now, these guys, so they're all in at the same time. Who needs to drive through other people's boxes? That is always difficult to get yourself into pit lane. There is Wagner. Where is he going to be in relation to the others? Trapani is going to be in the lead. That much is clear. Jason Allen is going to come out the pit lane, but not that far behind him, though far enough for the moment for the driver of the Porsche as he makes his way out. Where is Wagner going to be in relation to his teammate? It looks like David Holland has got out ahead, but for how much longer here? As Bass gets out just behind them. Simpson is just in behind him because he was passed, of course, on that lap. Then Ludecky and Baker stay in the same positions. Here comes Theriault and here comes Wagner as well. It looks like the time these two lost on their outlap together have allowed David Holland to get up onto the podium here. And so the teammates exchange places in 3rd and 4th.
Yeah, let's see how much this can impact the rest of the race, because Holland just in front of Wagner. Can Wagner try and keep him or prop him up in P3 for the time being? Theriault will want to get through on these two, and if these two in the form of Holland and Wagner start to help each other a little bit too much, will start to trip over each other in their attempts to not cause each other too much harm, is that going to open the door for Theriault to try and make a move? We've seen it before, or will we see it again? But for the time being, Theriault's not going to be a happy driver. You can see the podium positions. He was, of course, in P2 after turn 1, but he's dropping back down the order systematically for the time being. And whilst he's looking up front for the two teammates, Ethan Bass is on his tail to try and get him for P5.
Yeah, exactly. And Theriault at the moment is seeing his gap double to Vincent Trepanier in the championship, so he's really got to think now about how he's going to get through on the Mustangs. But I just don't think the Porsche is quite quick enough in sort of a race in hand-to-hand combat here. I think the Porsche is weaker than the Mustang because of its deficiency in a straight line. That's making Theriault overtaking others very difficult, and it's making overtaking him a little bit easier than it otherwise might be. And with Bass right behind him, that's got to be a huge concern.
Bass has been quietly going about his business all evening long, gaining a couple of positions in very smart moves. Can he make another one on Therio, who's currently part of the team's championship leaders? And as he said, we're hoping to maybe even wrap it up tonight with 2 rounds to spare. Even if they don't do that, they can be pretty confident about finalising their position at the top of the tree. Excuse me, in the last couple of weeks. But for Ethan Bass, he would not mind these extra points. It's not been the easiest of seasons for Ethan Bass. Down in P13 in the championship, not even had a single top 5. But around the outside, it can't happen again, surely. He's going to make it work, though. What a move from Bass.
It's happened again. Simon Therio overtaken into the bus stop chicane by a Mustang again. This is just turning into a bit of a disaster for him now. He slides on the exit of the outer loop as well. And I think half of the problem for him is that he doesn't want to crash with them through the bus stop, because that would be an even bigger disaster for his championship. But instead, his 1% toning back is allowing the others to get through. And that's now 3 Mustangs who've overtaken him in this race. He's down to 6th place. He's seeing his championship margin to his teammate absolutely balloon.
Yeah, and this is not looking good for his personal aspirations, but I mean, for the teams, it's okay. I think the Drivers' Championship was always going to be difficult, especially with the insanely good run of form that Vincent Trepanier has been on. Therio just dropping back. Clearly, the straight line speed is not there for him tonight, being done around the outside twice at the bus stop chicane. I don't think we've seen that well, I've not seen that in a very long time here at Watkins Glen. Such a difficult place to make a move. And around the outside as well, Therio's going to be gutted. I think the case for him now is just to try and stay in P6 and not to lose too much time to the likes of Simpson and Ledecky.
I think he'll be okay to stay ahead of Simpson and Ledecky, but let's see. It could be close by the end. Another Porsche who might be vulnerable to a Mustang attack, by the way, is Steve Baker from Sean Dickinson. Baker at the moment is leading the AMs as he has been all day long, gaining 3 points on Chris Long. That will put him 2 behind Long going into the next race. He's gaining 5 on Brewer. That will put him 10 behind Brewer. So the top 3 in the championship would be covered by 10 as things stand, but will it be now 11? As Dickinson gets to the outside, no, not quite. Baker holds on to the inside line, but that's the first warning now of what could be a persistent threat for the last 7 minutes.
Yeah, and this is going to be Dickinson's real push to get ahead of Steve Baker. Baker knows that he needs to hold firm, though. This is an incredible opportunity for the championship. For him, his best result coming a few weeks back in round 3 over at Indianapolis. It's not really been the best of seasons since, but he's been picking up consistent enough points to get himself into P3 in the championship. The points he's gaining now on Matthew Brower and Chris Long are going to be so crucial. He needs that championship gap to be as minimal as it can be with 2 rounds to go, because every point is going to be just so important with a championship as tight as it is in the AM category.
Yeah, I'm finding the AM championships in these GT3 championships very, very interesting indeed. And the fact they're close as well going into these last 2 rounds is fantastic as well. Are the others involved in battles? Not really. Chris Long is on the back of Evan Mackay at the moment, and Matt Brewer is on his own in 14th place. So this is the highest profile of the AM battles. I think the one that's most likely to change actually as well, as we cross over 4 laps still to go. Pretty sure it's 4 still to go in this race anyway. Yeah, it should be. So does Dickinson have a chance? He's nowhere near as close as he was last time round, and he barely got alongside 1 lap ago of Steve Baker. So I'd imagine he will be stuck behind, and there he goes, pulls to the inside to Baker, and he knows that he's in a battle. He's just breaking the slipstream, but he's not under threat this time.
Yeah, will keep himself nice and safe this tour of the circuit, but you never really know how it's going to go over the next minute and a half by the time you reach this same point. On the following lap, Evan Mackay doing a nice job. I hope he's doing well. Of course, I feel slightly bad every time I mention Evan Mackay after the stick we gave him in the opening few weeks for his driver cab, but it's always nice to see him getting a nice consistent result.
Turn it off now.
I don't know. I haven't seen it in a few weeks. I hope we didn't bully him out of it. But Chris Long will focus on getting faster and making him happy in that way.
I suspect we did bully him out of it actually. I don't feel like I regret much, but It's we've paid a price for that joke. Let's put it that way. As we continue in this battle for 11th place, all McLaren battle, of course. It would be pure driver versus driver here. Although there will be setup differences as well. This open setup race of the night. Oh my goodness me! Trapani is off the road. Can you believe this? The long-time race leader has had a huge spin through the final corner, and he's thrown his 4th win of the season away. Oh my goodness me, this is unbelievable. Quite frankly, unbelievable. He's down to 12th position.
I don't even know if I can form the words for a sentence. Trapani was in such a comfortable position that he didn't really need to do anything at all to get himself to the end. Clearly a spin on his own in the final corner. We'll see it here. Oh, was there traffic in the way? Let's see as he comes through. Oh, maybe he just gets put off by the lap car on the inside. He spun it through the final corner and had to reverse it to avoid going into the pit lane. Trapani, that's disaster. The only saving grace for him is that he will pick up at least 41 points in his drop round. But the only problem is that Therio is going to close that gap in the Drivers' Championship. That is... I don't even know how to describe that. It's an incredible moment for the championship.
That's a very, very big turnaround indeed. I mean, he seemed to be gesturing there as if what was the lap car doing, but that was not the lap car's fault at all, I don't think. I know it was on the inside line, but it was coming into pit lane. There was ample space for him on the outside. I don't think he can point the finger there at all, Trapani. I think he can only look at himself, and he's really cost himself there. As you say, he will get 41 points. His worst result of the season so far is 10th. This is, as you can see, worse than that, although it might be the same as that, to be honest, because he's got fastest lap and pole, but it doesn't matter. He's going to score 41, whether it is the worst or whether it's not. So, and no more than that, unless he gains a place in these final 2 laps, which are just about to start. So, with Therio currently in 5th place, that would gain him 4 points back, I think, and that would get him into, I'll just double check that. Yes, it would, no, going in 5 back, excuse me, so the gap would halve. From a day where it was looking like it was going to double, Therio is going to be halving this gap, and Trapani is in pit lane. His day is pretty much done.
Yeah, this is a disaster for Trapani. He will, of course, pick up those 41 points, as I mentioned, that he's currently dropping. That was in round number 1. He's been on a mission since then. The only issue is that Therio is going to be picking up a pretty good payday in his championship after this race. I think he'll pick up... is that 46 points for him? Or did he reach the incident limit here?
I think so. Wonder how close everyone else is in that case. Because that would have been a 2x, you know, not a 4, so that's surprising for Trapani. But anyway, he's so far down anyway, it doesn't really matter as things stand. So Jason Allen leads this race now. Who would have seen that coming at the start of the day? Jason Allen leading the field, 10th place in the driver standings with 1 lap to go. Steve Baker, meanwhile, alongside Sean Dickinson, who's trying to take this position away late on. Oh, Baker is going to win in hand by the looks of things, but he's going to get less of a gain than he would have hoped in the championship. Back down the inside, he goes into turn number 8, but Dickinson will just run it out wide, and he's going to get through then. On the inside at turn 9, it seemingly always prevails. If Baker can hold it round here, I'll be very impressed. And indeed, he cannot. And he moves back down to 9th place, 2 ahead of Long and 4 ahead of Brewer.
Yeah, incredibly important positions for Steve Baker for him to hold on. Getting through Dickinson would just be the cherry on the top. I've done a little bit of maths, by the way, for the championship standings in the Pro, and I believe that Therio will close the gap to Trapani to 5 points with the drop round that Trapani will be able to pick up. So it's still going to be the lead for Trapani, but that is reduced when it was looking like it was going to be well into the teams.
Yep, I agree with your maths. That's what I've come to as well. So 5 it is at the end of the day for Therio. And actually, it's not been his best day, to be honest, Therio. He has struggled a bit, and he's actually not been able to keep pace with the 3 Mustangs ahead of him now. However, he's still going to gain, nevertheless, as they go down the straight in towards the bus stop chicane and through rather cleanly. Jason Allen at the front of the field, by the way, has yet to finish in the top 5 yet this season, and yet to finish on the podium as well. He has a best result of 7th so far, and he might be on his way to a race victory here in the PRL for the very first time. This would be remarkable.
Yeah, a driver that hasn't really been, I mean, terribly at the race. He's missed a round in round 3, which means that dropping absolutely nothing means that every single point's going to count throughout his season. 10th in the championship, 74 points back. Just the consistency, not quite in the top 5, but getting some decent results in the top 10 as well has kept him relevant in the championship. But this has been an incredible result for Jason Allen. He's picking up the pieces when it matters. Chapanier has thrown it all away. Jason Allen, I'm sure he's beaming right now.
He's losing quite a lot of time in this last lap, just making sure, absolutely sure, that he does not go into the wall. Out of the final corner, and Jason Allen is a Precision Racing League race winner here at Watkins Glen. Not on the podium, not in the top 5 all season long until today, where he stands on the top step, loud and proud, ahead of David Holland and Conor Wagner, as Steve Baker, meanwhile, in the background, gained some vital points with an AM win as well here at Watkins Glen. He's not tasted success in this class since Indianapolis. All those weeks ago, it's been a month or so since he was able to taste victory. At the most important time, he also gets onto the top step. What a end to this race. Thrills and spills right to the very end. Unfortunately, it's a spill for Vincent Chapanier, who comes across the line in 16th place.
Yeah, dramatic day in his championship as and you can see what he felt about it as he crossed the line, but everybody else trying to get themselves to the end. This is going to be a monumental day for the championship. We thought we kind of knew how it was going to end, but we should have known in the PRL this season in all the categories. You never really know till the checker flag flies.
Jason Allen wins ahead of 3 Mustangs, David Holland, Conor Wagner and Ethan Bass, with the best of the Porsches, Sim Ontario, halving his gap to the lead in the championship despite finishing down in 5th place, lower than where he started. Nick Ludecki, Kevin Simpson and Sean Dickinson all got past Steve Baker towards the end, but he still wins in AM ahead of Evan Mackay, the second of the 2 McLarens in the top 10. 11th place was Chris Long, with J.R. Williams in 12th, then Matt Perot, who takes a bit of a hit in the points, but he still leads the AM Championship. Noah Anderson and Chris Stewart round at the top 15, with Vincent Chapanier dropping to 16th with that late spin. There's theory, by the way, going around in the YouTube chat, whether he got speeding in the pit lane penalty, and that's why he had to drive through. I've got no idea, to be honest, whether that's true or not. Miles Brown, Richard Saavedra, David Mendonca and Wesley Price were the final ones on the lead lap. Peter Nobbo finished 1 down, Peter Moller 2 down, Joshua Spears 3 down, Adam Hayward 5 down. They all got to the end though, unlike Ryan Scowney, who was parked for the last 22 minutes or so. So let's chat to Jason Allen, the man of the moment, who wins here at Watkins Glen. Welcome in, Jason. Good to have you with us. How are you feeling after that one? You must be shocked as anybody, maybe, that you've won this race. Tell us how you're feeling.
Yeah, that was awesome, and I can't believe that, Vincent lost it there in that last corner. We were both pushing pretty hard there. Just a lot of fun. And thank you guys for the broadcast as usual.
I was preparing questions for you just a few laps before the end and about your result, even if you'd finished in 2nd place, because it would have been by far your best result of the season. You hadn't been on the podium yet. You hadn't been in the top 5. All of a sudden, you've got a race win now. Was it something about Watkins Glen that clicked with you? Were you expecting to go quickly around here?
When we saw no rain, yes, this is my best track, and I feel really good here. First time I've run the McLaren here, so in the drive, so I was not kind of sure about that. So I really got to thank my teammates and my family over at SimCity Racing to get me on pace there in the warm-up practice session. We got a great group of guys, and with your guys' support, you guys have known what we've gone through over the last month, 2 months, and just really appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Absolutely. Great win for you and the team, I'm sure. Congratulations, Jason, and thanks for chatting to us as well.
Thank you, guys. Have a great night. Great points day for SCR. Let's go.
Thanks very much, Jason Allen. Very pumped indeed to win here at Watkins Glen, and why not as well. 2nd place was David Holland in the end at the end of that one. Welcome in, David, as well. Good to have you with us. 2nd place here tonight in the pro and indeed overall. Getting ahead of Conor, getting ahead of Ethan Bass and Sim Ontario as well. Just tell us about that race from your perspective and what the Mustang was like around here. It looked very quick on the back straight, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. All that torque going up the S's onto the back straight, it was definitely pulling hard. Yeah, it was a good race. I struggled a little bit in qualifying. I think I should have been a little bit further up there. I just couldn't put a lap together. So yeah, just trying to make my way through during the race, and luckily, made some good, hard, clean passes. And next thing you know, we were up there fighting for P3 for podium. It's a shame for whatever happened with Vincent. I couldn't quite see it from my side, but we're happy to pick up P2 and P3 for the team, so we'll take it.
Yeah, just a spin on his own in the end, which promoted you all up with rather bizarre and uncharacteristic solo error, that's for sure. How are you feeling about the last 2 weeks now that you've got this sort of best result of the season under your belt now? Are you looking to push on and win one of these last two now?
Yeah, I think so. We'll see what happens. I'm not even sure what the last two tracks are, but, we'll figure it out come next Tuesday. But, I think... if everything goes our way during the race, we definitely have a chance to be up there. The last three races, I've been caught up in an incident on the first lap, so happy to shake that trend this race, and looking forward to finishing out the season strong.
Well, it's Fuji next week and Sebring the week after, so there you go. At least you know now. Congratulations on second tonight, and thanks for coming to chat to us as well.
All right, thanks guys, and congrats to Jason on the win, by the way. He was super fast. We were pushing hard there at the end, but just couldn't quite get up there. And just want to give a shout out and say thanks to our team, Delta Sports, and thanks to you guys for the broadcast and PRL for putting it on. See you guys.
Thanks very much, David Holland. Second place here tonight at Watkins Glen in the GT3 Sprint Series. Haven't got third, but placing with Conor Wagner with fourth place, Ethan Batt instead in the pros. Why on earth not? Ethan, welcome in as well. Good to have you with us, and climbing through the order very nicely during that race. How fun or not was that race at Watkins Glen tonight?
That's going to be the best race I've ever had. Oh my god, why we're not this fast normally?
It was a good race to watch as well. You were making some good overtakes through the bus stop chicane. Couldn't quite go on the podium at the end, of course, but you did go up to fourth place at least as well. Just how easy or not was it to overtake as well here? Because you made it look easy on occasion there in towards the bus stop chicane.
Well, the bus stop was the easiest place to overtake. I had a couple of chances on Kevin through the boot, but it wasn't possible. The Porsche is just so good on traction. Even if they have a bad exit out of the toe, I think you can't get them through the heel, and it made us drop back from the pack a little bit. But we got a bit lucky there at the end that we could hang back up, and then I got a good run out of turn one. I got to Kevin's inside, and he didn't fight it too hard because he's actually sensible. We were on our in lap, so it was like now or never.
Well, congratulations on getting up to fourth place, Ethan, tonight, and thanks for coming to chat to us as well.
Yep, thanks very much, and hopefully that's a good result for the Orbit boys. Needed that.
Absolutely, Orbit Drop In Motorsport, of course, the team you're part of. Ethan Bass there, fourth place here tonight at Watkins Glen tonight. Let's go down to the AM class where Steve Baker has taken a victory first since Indianapolis. Welcome in, Steve. Good to have you with us, and congratulations on the win here tonight as well. Of course, as far as the points go, you've gained 4 on Brewer. We'll get to that in a little bit of time, but just on the race itself, first of all, were you feeling confident coming into this round at Watkins Glen?
Yeah, one of my favorite tracks, and glad to have a good one after having several bad races in a row.
As I say, 4 points gained on Brewer, 2 on Long. Are you not a little bit disappointed, even though you've won the race? Are you not a little disappointed to have gained a few more points on them tonight, especially considering the amount of positions ahead of them you managed to qualify in the end? Of the qualifying session compared to the race, you've only gained comparatively few points. Are you a little bit disappointed about that, or just happy to take the win?
Yeah, I mean, I could have always tried to do better, but gave it my best shot, and we ended up where we deserve to be. But glad to gain any amount of points going in here with I think 2 races left or something like that. So we'll try and hold them off. They've been really quick the last several weeks, so I'm sure it'll be fun racing them. But yeah, I would have always loved to have a bigger gap.
Well, of course, yeah. Congratulations on the win here tonight, Steve, and thanks for coming to chat to us as well.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks very much, Steve Baker, the winner tonight here in the AM class, and the third place driver, Matthew Brewer, can also join us as well. Welcome in, Matt. Good to have you with us. You qualified down at the order, especially compared to some of your AM rivals, but you raced rather well, gaining some positions there, especially early on. Tell us a little bit about your race down in the pack, finishing third eventually in the AM class.
Well, it was a good race. I didn't have time the last 2 weeks, so I only practiced an hour ahead of the race. So I knew I wasn't going to have a really strong result. It was just a matter of damage limitation in terms of the championship.
And indeed, he managed that, only losing 4 points to Steve Baker and only losing 2 to Chris Long. You'll have 8 over Long and 11 over Baker with 2 rounds to go. How are you feeling about those margins going into the last 2 rounds at Fuji and Sebring?
Feeling confident. I mean, it's always good to have as big of a margin as you can, but at the end, these guys are really quick, and I'm going to do my best to hold them off.
All right, well, we look forward to it starting next week. Congratulations on a podium here tonight in the AM class and chatting to us as well.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Matthew Brewer there, the third place driver from the AM class. Chris Long not able to join us here tonight. So that will be it from Hills here at Watkins Glen. Good racing in the end, I've got to say. Darragh sets us up very nicely indeed for Fuji, which will be beginning in 1 week's time at 8:30 Eastern time, of course, as we set up our final 2 rounds of the GT3 Fixed and Sprint Series.
Yeah, cannot wait for. I mean, Fuji is always a circuit that provides some great racing action and a little bit more heavy braking zones over at Fuji. May means we get a couple more sends, a couple more big moments for a championship, and some drivers with a lot of work to do. Trapanier, for one, definitely needs to reclaim the narrative, but what a race we've had tonight. It only sets us up for a good couple of weeks to close out the championship, and they could really both go either way.
Certainly good. Make sure you join us again, 8:30 Eastern time in 1 week's time for live coverage of the Fuji round of the GT Fixed and Sprint Series. Make sure you come join us again tomorrow night for some Truck Series racing from Kentucky as the penultimate round of that series gets underway from 9 p.m. Eastern here on RaceSpotTV. Big thanks to everyone who's been tuned in over the course of the evening. I've been Ian Leary alongside Darragh Thacker, and Hugo Louise has been behind the cameras as always. We'll see you in 1 week's time at Fuji. Goodbye for now.